I remember the exact moment the silence started to feel wrong. It wasn't quiet at first. That's the strange part. Channel 16 is never quiet. Not really. There's always something. Voices overlapping, routine check-ins. Ferry captains calling their positions, static humming underneath everything like a tired engine that never shuts off. That night, it all sounded normal. Ferry Aurora, inbound to Dock 3, over. Copy that, Aurora. You're clear on approach. Voices like that. Calm, boring, predictable. The kind of chatter you stop listening to after a while. It was my first overnight shift alone. Graveyard hours. Midnight to 6. They told me it would be slow. They didn't say anything about it feeling off. I sat there with the headset pressing into my ears. One hand resting near the logbook, the other tapping lightly against the desk. The room smelled faintly like salt and old wires. A low hum came from the equipment racks behind me. Everything felt normal. Then someone called in. Coast Guard Station, this is inbound ferry requesting position confirmation. The voice was male. Rough, like he'd been talking too long or breathing bad air. I straightened a little. Routine. Go ahead, Ferry. State your position. There was a pause. Not long. Maybe 2 seconds. But it stretched in a way I didn't like. Coordinates repeating 37.118 by 122.409. His voice dipped strangely at the end, like the numbers hurt to say. I wrote them down anyway. Copy your coordinates, I said. Stand by for confirmation. My eyes moved to the chart screen beside me. I typed them in. Nothing. No marker. No vessel. No route. I frowned and checked again, slower this time. Still nothing. That was the first small thing. The kind of thing you ignore. Ferry, confirm coordinates, I said. Static answered me. Not loud. Not sharp. Just thick, like the sound had weight. I adjusted the volume slightly, leaning closer. Ferry, repeat your position. Then his voice came back. Exactly the same. Coordinates repeating 37.118 by 122.409. Same tone, same pacing, same strange dip at the end. For a second, I thought maybe he hadn't heard me. Or maybe there was a delay. Copy. I said again, slower this time. Can you confirm vessel name? Silence. Then, coordinates repeating. I pulled the headset off one ear. Something about that didn't sit right. It wasn't just that he was repeating himself. It was how exact it was. Like a recording. Behind his voice, I noticed something else. A faint sound. I pressed the headset tighter. There, a soft, uneven noise. Inhale, exhale, breathing, slow, close, almost too close. I swallowed. Ferry, do you copy? I asked. No answer. Just that same transmission again. 37.118 by 122.409. I looked at the timestamp. 12:47 a.m. Still early. Still normal, I told myself. Maybe the guy was panicking. Maybe his system was glitching. It happens. I logged the call anyway. Coordinates received. Unable to verify. Simple. Routine. But I didn't close the channel. I kept listening. Because the breathing didn't stop. Even when the voice cut out. It stayed. Soft. Rhythmic. Like someone standing right behind me. I turned my head without thinking. The room was empty. Just a glow of screens and the quiet hum of equipment. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Get together, I muttered. First night nerves. That's all. Another call came in a few minutes later. Different voice. Clear. Sharp. Coast Guard. This is Harbor Queen. Requesting docking clearance. Relief hit me instantly. Normal voice. Normal request. Harbor Queen, you're clear for Dock 2. I replied. Copy that. Clean. Simple. The kind of exchange I expected. For a few minutes, everything went back to normal. Calls came in. I answered. Logged them. Routine settled back in like it always does. But I kept glancing at the coordinates on my pad. 37.118. 122.409. They didn't belong anywhere. Not on any route. Not on any chart. At 1:12 a.m., the first voice came back. No signal tone. No call sign. Just there. Coordinates repeating. I froze. The system didn't even show an incoming transmission. But I could hear him, clear as before. "Ferry, identify yourself," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The breathing got louder, closer. 37.118. My hand moved slowly to the system panel. I checked the channel. Still channel 16. Still active, but no source. That shouldn't happen. Every transmission has a source. Every single one. I leaned closer to the mic. "Sir, I need you to confirm your vessel name." A pause. Longer this time. The breathing stopped. Completely. For a second, I thought it was over. Then he spoke again. But not the same way. Not flat. Not repeating. This time, he sounded like he was listening. "You already have it." My stomach tightened. That wasn't part of any protocol. "Repeat that," I said. Silence. Then the static returned. Thicker than before. I pulled the headset away slightly. The sound shifted with it. Like it wasn't coming from the radio. Like it was inside it or behind it. I don't know how to explain that part. I checked the log system. My last entry was still there, but there was something new under it. A second line. Same timestamp. Same coordinates. Different note. Confirmed. I didn't write that. I know I didn't. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Cold. Slow. I scrolled back, and no other changes. Just that one word. Confirmed. I felt a strange pressure in my chest. Not pain. Just weight. Like something had settled there. "Okay," I whispered to myself. System glitch. It had to be. That made sense. Systems fail. People don't just add entries without touching anything. I deleted the line. Hit save. It disappeared for about 3 seconds. Then it came back. Confirmed. Same place. Same timestamp. I didn't touch anything this time. I just stared at it. My headset crackled softly. The breathing was back. Slower now. Heavier. And closer than before. "Do you see it now?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because I didn't know what he meant. And I wasn't sure I wanted to. My eyes moved back to the coordinates. 37.118. 122.409. Without thinking, I opened the secondary mapping system. The one we barely use. Old interface. Slower. Less accurate. But sometimes it picks up things the main one misses. I entered the numbers. Hit search. For a second, nothing happened. Then a small that appeared. Faint. Blinking. My breath caught. "There you are," I whispered. But something felt wrong immediately. It wasn't on water. It wasn't on land either. It was between. Right on the edge of the chart. Like it didn't fully belong. The system flickered. The dot shifted slightly. Not moving. Just adjusting. Like it was trying to settle into place. My headset hissed softly. "Stay on the line." I closed my eyes for a second. Just one. When I opened them again, the dot was closer. Not by much, but enough to notice. I hadn't refreshed the screen. I hadn't touched anything. My heart started to beat faster. "That's not possible," I said quietly. But I didn't look away, because now I needed to know if it would move again, if it would stop, or if it was coming here. The breathing in my headset slowed, matched my own. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Don't disconnect. I don't remember deciding to keep listening. I just did, because something about that voice, it didn't feel like a distress call anymore. It felt like it had already reached me, and I was just catching up. I knew those coordinates before he said them again. That's what scared me first. Not the voice, not the breathing. The fact that my mind started repeating them before he did. 37.118. 122.409. Like something had already planted them there. I kept staring at the blinking dot on the secondary screen. It didn't move this time. It just pulsed. Slow. Faint. Like it was barely holding its place. My hand hovered over the keyboard. I didn't want to touch anything, because the last time I did, something answered back. Coordinates repeating. His voice slid into my ears again. Same tone. Same pacing. but now it felt closer. Not louder, closer, like the distance between us was shrinking in a way I couldn't measure. I have your coordinates, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. You need to identify your vessel. Silence. The breathing came back, but it wasn't steady anymore. It hitched, short, uneven, like he was tired, or hurt, or trying not to panic. That changed something in me. For a second, I forgot how strange this was. Are you in distress? I asked. That's protocol. You hear breathing like that, you assume distress. You respond. You help. There was a pause, longer than before. Then, you already know where I am. My chest tightened. That wasn't an answer. It felt like a push, like he was trying to make me admit something. I don't have you on any chart, I said. Your position isn't showing. The dot flickered, just once. Then it shifted again, a little closer. My fingers went cold. I didn't zoom. I didn't refresh. It just moved. That's not possible, I whispered. Look again. The voice wasn't flat anymore. There was something under it now, a quiet urgency. I leaned closer to the screen. It wasn't just blinking anymore. It was stretching, like a smear of light, as if the system couldn't decide where to place it. I switched back to the main chart, typed the coordinates again. Nothing. Empty grid. Open water. No vessel. No signal. I went back to the secondary. The dot was still there, waiting. My headset crackled. Don't switch? I froze. How do you know I stopped because I hadn't said that out loud. My eyes moved slowly toward the mic, then to the speakers, then back to the screen. You can't see that, I said quietly. The breathing filled my ears again, closer than before. Then almost softly, you're the only one who can... That didn't make sense. It shouldn't. Every transmission is shared. Every signal is logged. Nothing is just for one person. I opened the system log again. The entry was still there. Coordinates. Timestamp. Confirmed. I scrolled down. There was another line now. Same time. Same coordinates. Different text. Still receiving. My throat went dry. I hadn't typed that either. I checked the system activity log. No input recorded. No keystrokes. No edits. Just entries appearing. One after another. Keep logging, he said. I shook my head without thinking. No, I whispered, because something about that felt wrong. Not just strange. Wrong. Like I was being guided into something. Like every response I gave was feeding it. I need you to identify your vessel. I said again, louder this time, trying to pull it back to protocol, trying to anchor myself in something real. There was a long silence. No breathing. No static. Just the hum of the room. For a second, I thought it was over. That maybe whatever this was had dropped. I let out a slow breath. My shoulders relaxed just a little. Then, you logged me already? My stomach dropped. I didn't log your vessel, I said. Yes, you did. The words came through clear. Too clear. No distortion. No delay. Just a voice. Right there. Calm. Certain. I looked at the log again. My eyes moved slowly across the entries. Coordinates. Confirmed. Still receiving. And then, a new line. One I hadn't seen before. Vessel name. Highway 37. I stopped breathing. That wasn't a ferry name. That wasn't even a vessel name. That was a road. A land route. It didn't belong here. Who entered that? I whispered. The system stayed silent. But the headset didn't. You did? I shook my head harder this time. No, I said. No, that's not possible. The dot on the screen pulsed again. Stronger. Brighter. And then it moved. Not a flicker. Not a shift. It moved. A clear step closer to the edge of the chart. Toward me. My chair creaked as I leaned back. My pulse started to pound in my ears. That's not a vessel, I said, almost to myself. That's a location. It's where I am. His voice sounded different again. Quieter, like he was losing something, or getting farther away. But the dot was getting closer. How are you transmitting from there? I asked. No answer. Just that breathing again. Slower now. Dragging. Then, I'm not moving. My eyes snapped back to the screen. The dot blinked once. Then again. Then it slid another inch across the map. Closer. Closer. My skin felt tight. Cold. If you're not moving, then why is your signal? I stopped because I already knew the answer. It wasn't him moving. It was the system adjusting. Or worse, something aligning. You're the one getting closer, he said. The room felt smaller suddenly. The walls tighter. The air heavier. I looked around again. Same empty room. Same dim lights. Same quiet hum. But it didn't feel the same anymore. It felt like I was sitting in the wrong place. Like I had stepped into something I wasn't supposed to. I turned back to the screen. The had stopped moving. Right near the edge now. Almost off the chart. Almost here. Stay where you are. I said quickly, do not change position. It was automatic. Training. But the words felt useless as soon as I said them. I can't, he replied. A pause. Then softer, you already brought me this far. My hand slipped off the desk. I caught myself before I stood up. My legs felt weak. I didn't do anything, I said. But even as I said it, I remembered logging the coordinates, entering them again, opening the secondary system, watching, tracking, following every step, every response. Don't disconnect, he whispered, the same words from before. But now they meant something different. Now they felt like a warning, or maybe a request. I didn't know which was worse. My eyes moved slowly back to the map. The dot flickered one last time. Then it vanished. Just gone. No fade. No movement. Nothing. The screen went blank. Empty. Like it had never been there. The headset went silent. No breathing. No voice. No static. Just nothing. I sat there, frozen, waiting, listening, counting the seconds without realizing it. 10, 20, 30, still nothing. Slowly, my body relaxed. Just a little. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever that was. Then the system beeped. A new log entry. I didn't touch anything. I didn't move. I just looked. Position confirmed. Inside station. My heart stopped. And for the first time that night, I heard something in the room with me. Not through the headset. Not through the speakers. Behind me, breathing. I didn't turn around. That's the part one still don't understand. Anyone else would have. Anyone else would have spun their chair, checked the room, looked behind them the second they heard breathing that wasn't coming through the headset. But I didn't. I just sat there, frozen, because something in me already knew if I turned around, I would see something that didn't belong. The breathing stayed behind me. Slow, wet, close enough that I could feel it, not on my skin, but somewhere deeper, like my body recognized it even if my eyes refused to. I kept staring at the screen, at the empty map, at the place where it had been. Gone. Completely gone. But the log entry was still there. Position confirmed. Inside station. My throat felt tight. I swallowed, but it didn't help. The room was too quiet now. No chatter. No ferry calls. No overlapping voices. Channel 16, silent. That never happens. Not at this hour. Not on this channel. Something was wrong with the system. That's what I told myself. It had to be. The silence. The logs. The voice. All of it connected to the equipment. It had to be. Because the other option. The breathing shifted slightly. Right behind my left ear. I flinched. Just a small movement. But enough to feel the chair creak under me. The sound echoed louder than it should have. And for a second, the breathing stopped. Completely. Like it was listening to me now. My heart started to pound harder. Don't move. Don't react. Don't give it anything. I reached slowly for the headset. My fingers felt stiff. Cold. I pulled it off. The room went quiet. No static. No voice. No breathing. Just silence. I held it there for a moment. Waiting. Listening. Nothing. A small wave of relief moved through me. See? Equipment. It's just the equipment. I almost laughed. A quiet, shaky breath came out instead. Then I heard it again. Not from the headset. from the room. Behind me, closer now, I froze again. The relief vanished instantly, replaced by something heavier, something colder. Because now I knew it wasn't the system. It never was. Don't take it off. The voice wasn't in my ears. It wasn't in the speakers. It was in the air, soft, right behind me. I slowly lowered the headset back onto the desk. My hand trembled slightly. I'm not playing along, I said under my breath. The words felt weak as soon as I said them, because I was already playing along. I hadn't left. I hadn't called anyone. I was still sitting here, listening, waiting. The console lights flickered for a second, just a quick dip, then back to normal. I stared at them, tried to focus on something real, something I could control. But then the speakers crackled again, even without the headset. A low hiss filled the room, static, soft at first, then slowly growing. I leaned forward without thinking. The sound, it wasn't random. It had rhythm, a pattern, like something trying to form words. I turned the volume knob slightly. The static grew louder, clearer, and then I heard it, breathing, but different this time. Not behind me, not in the room, inside the static, layered into it, like it had always been there, hidden under the noise. My chest tightened again. How is that even possible? I whispered. The static shifted. The breathing synced with it. Inhale through noise. Exhale through distortion. A strange mix of machine and something alive. I reached for the mic again. My hand stopped halfway. Do I respond? Or does that make it worse? I hesitated too long, because the answer came anyway. You hear it now? I slowly nodded, then realized I didn't want to answer that, but I already had. My body reacted before my mind could stop it. Good, the voice said. The word came through the static. Not clean, not clear, but there, blended with the breathing, like it was learning how to use the signal. A chill moved down my spine. This wasn't just a broken transmission. It was adapting, learning. I pushed the mic button. I'm ending this transmission, I said firmly. No response, just the static. I let go of the button. The room felt heavier, like the air itself was pressing down. I reached for the main power switch. If I shut it down, everything stops, right? No signal, no sound, no voice. My fingers hovered over it. Don't, the voice whispered. This time, it wasn't in the static. It was behind me again, closer than ever, almost touching. I clenched my jaw. You're not real, I said. The words sounded small, unconvincing. Even to me, the breathing behind me grew slower, calmer, like it wasn't threatened, like it knew I wouldn't follow through. You brought me in, it said softly. I closed my eyes for a second. Just one, trying to think, trying to remember. The coordinates, the logging, the second system. Every step I took, every time I answered, every time I listened. What if this wasn't just a call? What if it was a connection? And I kept strengthening it, without knowing. My eyes opened slowly. The static was still there, the breathing still inside it. And then, something new, a faint second rhythm, out of sync, another breath, not his, not mine. I leaned closer. My pulse quickened. There's more than one, I whispered. The static crackled. Both rhythms overlapped now. Two sets of breathing. One slow, one faster. Uneven, like someone trying to catch up. They hear you too, the voice said. My blood ran cold. They? I repeated. The lights flickered again. Longer this time. The room dimmed, then returned. But something had changed. I could feel it, not see it. Feel it, like the space around me wasn't empty anymore. Like something had filled it, quietly, without moving. I didn't dare turn around, because now I wasn't sure how many were behind me. The static grew louder. The breathing multiplied. 3, then 4, layered, stacked, all slightly different, all too close. Stay on the line, the voice whispered, and for the first time, I realized something worse than the fear, worse than the presence, worse than not being alone. The channel wasn't silent anymore. It was open, And whatever was coming through wasn't trying to reach the Coast Guard. It was trying to reach me. I didn't touch the keyboard. Not this time. I kept both hands in my lap, away from the console, away from the system, because now I knew it didn't need me to type. The screen blinked once, a soft system pulse. Then a new line appeared, right under the last one. Operator response logged. My chest tightened. Slowly, I leaned forward, reading it. Stay on the line. My mouth went dry. I never said that. Not into the mic. Not out loud. But I remembered thinking it just a few minutes ago, when the voices started layering, when the breathing multiplied. I had thought, stay on the line. Just a thought. Nothing more. You're getting better, the voice whispered. Behind me, closer now, almost resting on my shoulder. I didn't turn. I couldn't, because if I turned, it would confirm everything. And I wasn't ready for that. You're pulling from my head, I said quietly. The words came out steady, stronger than I expected. For a second, I felt something close to control, like I had figured out part of it. The log system wasn't broken. It was listening. The voice didn't answer right away. The silence stretched, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full, like something was watching how I reacted. Then, you opened the channel. It said. The lights dimmed again, longer this time. The room dipped into shadow, then came back. But the edges of everything looked softer, less defined, like the room wasn't holding its shape properly. I forced myself to focus on the screen, on something stable, something real. The log updated again. No delay, no input, just appeared. Operator confirms visual contact. My heart skipped. No, I said quickly. No, I didn't. But even as I said it, my eyes flicked just for a second toward the reflection in the dark screen beside the console. I hadn't meant to look, but I did. And in that reflection, something moved. Behind me, too tall, too still. I snapped my eyes back to the main screen. My breathing got shallow, fast. I hadn't seen it clearly. Just a shape, just enough to know I wasn't alone. You saw me, the voice said softly. The log updated instantly. Visual contact confirmed. My hands curled into fists. This isn't real, I whispered, but the system didn't care. It kept writing, line after line, each one faster than the last. Operator remains seated. Operator continues transmission. Operator acknowledges presence. I didn't say that. I shouted. My voice echoed in the small room, sharp, breaking the pattern. For a second, everything stopped. The log froze. The static cut out. The breathing, gone. Silence, pure silence. I sat there, chest rising and falling hard. That was the first time I felt it. A break. Like I had interrupted something. Like I had stepped out of its control. Slowly, carefully, I reached for the power switch again. No hesitation this time. If this thing was tied to the system, I shut the system down. It ends. Simple. My fingers wrapped around the switch. Cold metal. Real. Solid. I started to push. If you stop, the voice said, but it didn't finish. And that's what made me pause. Because it didn't sound threatening. It sounded unsure. For the first time, it didn't sound in control. If I stopped, what? I asked. Quiet. Careful. No answer. Just a faint shift behind me. Like something adjusting its weight. I swallowed. If I stop the system, what happens? The silence stretched. Longer than before. And in that silence, the room felt bigger. Like whatever was behind me had stepped back. Just a little. You won't hear us anymore, it said finally. My grip tightened. That's the point. I replied. A pause. Then, but we'll still be here. My chest tightened again. That wasn't a threat. It was worse. It was a fact. I looked at the log. It hadn't updated. Still frozen. Waiting. Like it needed me to decide. Stay connected or not. I looked at the reflection again. Just a quick glance. The shape was still there. Taller than the chair, head tilted slightly, watching. But now, there was something else. Another shape, lower, closer to the floor. And another, faint, barely visible. But there, more than one. The breathing came back. Not from the headset, not from the speakers. From the room, different directions, different rhythms. All slow, all patient. We followed the signal, the voice whispered. I closed my eyes for a second. Just one, thinking. If I shut it down, I lose the sound. But not them. If I keep it on, I stay connected. But maybe I understand it. Maybe I can control it, or at least delay it. My eyes open again. The screen flickered. The log resumed. New lines appeared, slower this time, like it was waiting for me. Operator hesitates. Operator remains on channel. Operator continues. I didn't type anything, but this time I didn't argue either, because it was right. I was still here, still listening, still connected. Keep logging, the voice said. Softer now, closer again. I looked at the keyboard, then at the screen. Then slowly, I moved my hands back onto the desk. Not to type, just to rest them there. The keys felt warm now, like they had been used. Recently. That's it, it whispered. The log updated again. But this time, the text changed. It wasn't just recording me anymore. It was speaking for me. Operator welcomes transmission. My breath caught. No, I whispered. But the line stayed. Then another appeared. Connection stable. The lights flickered one more time. Longer, darker. When they came back, the reflection in the screen was clearer, sharper. The shapes behind me, closer. And one of them was leaning down, right next to my ear. You're doing it right, it said. And I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. Something worse than the fear. Worse than the presence. Worse than not being alone. The system wasn't just logging me anymore. It was turning me into the response. And whatever came through Channel 16 next wouldn't be talking to the Coast Guard. It would be talking through me. The number didn't match. That's what I noticed first. Not the fog. Not the silence. Not even the way the ferry moved slower than it should. It was a number. 72 passengers on board. The ferry captain had said, when we first made contact, clear voice, calm, routine. I wrote it down without thinking. 72. Simple. Normal. But now, standing on the deck of our patrol boat, watching that ferry drift through the fog beside us, it didn't feel right anymore. The fog was thick. Not just heavy, thick, like it had weight. It pressed against the water, against the hull, against my face. Even the beam lights struggled to cut through it. They just faded into white. Swallowed. Keep her steady, my partner Malik said from behind me. I nodded. My hands tightened slightly on the rail. The ferry's shape came in and out of view. 1 second it was there. Next second, gone. Then back again, like it was phasing in and out of the fog. Ferry Aurora, confirmed passenger count. Malik called into the radio. Routine check. We do it mid-crossing sometimes, just to stay updated. There was a pause, longer than it should have been. Then the captain responded. 74. I frowned. I turned my head slightly. Did he just say 74? I asked. Malik looked at me. Yeah. He didn't sound concerned. Not yet. Maybe late boarding, he added. Happens. Maybe, but we were already halfway across. There's no boarding out here. Just open water and fog. I looked back at the ferry. Its windows glowed faintly. Yellow light behind glass. I could see silhouettes moving inside. Or, I thought I could. It was hard to tell. Everything blurred in the fog. Ferry Aurora, confirm again, Malik said. His tone changed slightly. Still calm, but sharper, more focused. This time, the reply came faster. 71. My stomach tightened. That's not possible, I said under my breath. Malik didn't answer right away. He just stared at the ferry, then at me, then back at the radio. Captain, repeat passenger count, he said. Silence. The ferry drifted slightly closer to us. Not by engine, not by course change. Just closer, like the fog pushed it. We're counting now, the captain replied. His voice sounded different. Lower. Distracted. I leaned forward slightly. Tried to see through the windows. The silhouettes inside moved, but not like people walking, more like shifting, like shadows adjusting to each other. I blinked, looked again. Still there, still wrong. How many did you log at departure? Malik asked me quietly. 72, I said. He nodded slowly. Okay. But he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. The ferry horn sounded once. Low, long. It echoed strangely in the fog. Too long. Like the sound didn't know where to stop. Then the captain came back. We have 76. I felt my grip tighten on the rail. That's full more than before, I said. Malik didn't respond. His jaw tightened. His eyes stayed fixed on the ferry. Captain, confirm no additional boarding, he said into the radio. Static. Then, no additional boarding. A pause. They're already here. The word sat heavy in the air. I exchanged a look with Malik. That wasn't standard phrasing. That wasn't protocol. That doesn't make sense, I whispered. Malik shook his head slightly. Keep eyes on the deck, he said. I nodded. Focus. The ferry's outer deck came into view through the fog. Empty. No movement. No passengers outside. Just wet metal and railings slicked with condensation. Were they then? I muttered. Inside, I told myself. They're inside. That's normal. But the windows, the silhouettes were wrong. Too many. Too close together. And some of them didn't move at all. Captain, we need a visual head count, Malik said. More firmly this time. The reply didn't come right away. Instead, the ferry lights flickered. Just once. Then steadied. My heart skipped. That normal? I asked. Malik didn't answer, because he already knew. No, it wasn't. The radio crackled. We're counting again. The captain's voice sounded strained now, like he was trying to keep control of something. I leaned closer to the edge. The ferry drifted nearer again, close enough that I could hear something faint. Not the engine, not the water. Something else. A low murmur, like people talking, but too soft to understand. Too many voices layered together. Do you hear that? I asked. Malik nodded slowly. Yeah. His voice dropped. I hear it. The murmur grew slightly louder, then stopped, all at once, like someone had cut it off. The silence that followed felt heavier than the noise. Then, 69, the captain said. I blinked. What? 69 passengers, Malik repeated quietly. That's less now, I said. That's less than we started with. The ferry didn't slow, didn't stop. It just kept drifting beside us, like nothing was wrong. Captain, confirm discrepancy, Malik said. No answer, just static. Then, we can't find them. My chest tightened. Find who? I asked under my breath. The radio crackled again. Some of them, they're not in the seats. A pause. But they're still being counted. I felt something cold move through me. That doesn't make any sense, I said. But deep down, it did, in a way I didn't want to admit. The silhouettes in the windows shifted again. One of them moved closer to the glass. Too close. I could see its outline now. But not clearly, not fully, just enough to know. It wasn't facing forward. It was facing me. I took a step back. Slow. Careful. Malik, I said quietly. He followed my gaze. Saw it too. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then, 78, the captain said. My head snapped toward the radio. That's higher again, I said. That's impossible. Malik grabbed the mic. Captain, lock your count and confirm, he said sharply. The response came instantly. Too instantly. We can't lock it. A pause. Then, they won't stay counted. The fog thickened suddenly, pushed in closer, swallowed the ferry halfway. Only the lights remained, floating shapes in white. The silhouettes disappeared, gone, just light now, and fog, and the sound of water. They're moving between us, the captain whispered. My stomach dropped. Between what? I asked, but I already knew. Between counts, between spaces, between... I turned my head slowly, toward our own boat, our deck, empty, but it didn't feel empty anymore. The air felt crowded, like something stood just out of sight, close enough to reach, close enough to breathe. Malik stepped back too, just slightly. We both felt it, didn't say it, but we felt it. The radio hissed. "How many are on your vessel?" the captain asked. Malik hesitated, just for a second. Then, "2," he said. Silence. Then, "That's not what we're seeing." My heart started to race. I looked at Malik. He looked at me. Then slowly, he glanced past me, over my shoulder. I didn't turn. I didn't want to, because the way his face changed, the way his eyes shifted, told me everything. "Confirm your count," the captain whispered. And for the first time since we left the dock, I wasn't sure the answer was still 2. The dock lights were already on when we saw it. That's what didn't make sense. We were still in the fog, still mid-crossing, still trying to figure out how many people were even on that ferry. And yet, there it was, Dock 3, clear, lit, waiting, like we had already arrived. "That's not right," I said under my breath. Malik didn't answer. He was staring straight ahead, his grip tight on the controls. The ferry drifted forward, slow, too smooth, like it wasn't pushing through water anymore, like it was being pulled. The fog behind us stayed thick, heavy, unbroken. But ahead, it just stopped, clean edge, like a wall we passed through. And on the other side, everything was normal. Still water, clear air, dock lights glowing steady. No wind, no sound, no people. "That's the port," Malik said quietly, but his voice didn't sound convinced. I leaned forward. My eyes scanned the shoreline. The same buildings, same layout, same cranes in the distance. It looked right. It looked exactly like home. But something felt off. Too still, too empty. "Ferry Aurora, confirmed docking approach," Malik said into the radio. No response. Just silence. Not even static. I looked back at the ferry. It was fully visible now. No fog around it. No distortion. Just a normal vessel, moving slow toward the dock. Like nothing had happened. Like the last hour didn't exist. "How many passengers?" I asked. Malik didn't answer, because we both knew that question didn't mean anything anymore. The ferry eased into position. Soft contact with the dock. A dull metal sound. Normal. Routine. Everything looked routine. Too routine. The ramp lowered slowly. Hydraulics humming. A clean, controlled motion. I waited, watching, expecting people. Movement. Noise. Something. Nothing. No one came out. No footsteps. No voices. No movement at all. "That's not normal," I said. Malik nodded. "Stay here," he said. But he didn't move either. We both just watched. The open ramp. The empty entrance. Like something should appear. But didn't. "Captain, report status," Malik called. Silence. Then a soft click. The radio came alive again. "We've already docked," the captain said. His voice sounded calm. Too calm. "We see that," Malik replied. "Disembarked passengers." A pause. Then, "They already left." I felt a chill run through me. "That's not possible," I said. "We've been watching the ramp the whole time." Malik grabbed the mic again. "Negative," he said. "No passengers have exited." Another pause. Longer this time. Then, "They're not on the ferry anymore." My stomach dropped. I stepped closer to the edge of our boat, trying to see inside. The ferry's interior lights were still on. Doors open. Hallways visible. Empty. Completely empty. No movement. No silhouettes. Nothing. "Check your manifest," Malik said. The response came instantly. 78 boarded. A pause. 0 on board. My heart started to race. "That's not how that works," I whispered. Malik didn't respond, because now he was looking at something else. The dock terminal. I followed his gaze. The building stood quiet. Lights on inside, but no movement. No staff. No workers. No one waiting. "Something's wrong," Malik said. "Yeah," I replied. But I couldn't stop looking at the ferry, because even though it looked empty, it didn't feel empty. It felt recently full, like something had just left, seconds ago, and we missed it. The radio crackled again. "You should check your side," the captain said. My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" Malik asked. No answer. Just silence again. I turned slowly, toward our own boat, the deck, the rail, the small cabin behind us. Everything looked the same, exactly the same. But something felt different. The air felt thicker, heavier, like the space wasn't empty anymore. I took a step back. "Slow, careful, Malik," I said quietly. He didn't look at me. His eyes stayed fixed on the cabin door. "Don't open it," he said. My heart skipped. I wasn't going to. But now that he said it, now I noticed it. The door, slightly ajar, just a crack. I was sure it had been closed, locked, before. "You locked that, right?" I asked. Malik didn't answer. That was enough. A faint sound came from inside. Soft, barely there, like movement or breathing. I felt my throat tighten. "They're not on the ferry," I whispered. Malik nodded slowly. "And they're not on the dock." We both looked at the cabin door. The crack seemed wider now, just a little, enough to see darkness inside. Too dark, even with the lights on. The radio clicked again. "You logged their arrival," the captain said. Malik grabbed the mic. "What are you talking about?" A pause. Then, "Your system shows full transfer." My stomach dropped. "What system?" I asked. Malik turned quickly, moved to the console inside our boat. I followed him. The small screen flickered softly. Data running, logs updating. He leaned in, scrolled once, then froze. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then slowly, he turned the screen toward me. I read it. Arrival complete. Passengers transferred, 78. Receiving vessel, patrol unit. My chest went tight. "That's us," I whispered. Malik nodded. "But we never..." I stopped because something clicked in my head. The changing numbers, the missing passengers, the empty ferry. "They didn't disappear," I said slowly. Malik looked at me. "They moved." The room felt colder, the air heavier. Behind us, the cabin door creaked open a little more. We both turned at the same time. The darkness inside looked deeper now, not just shadow. Something thicker, something that absorbed the light. The radio crackled one last time. "You didn't watch them leave?" the captain whispered. A pause. Then, "You just didn't see them arrive." My heart pounded in my chest. I stared at the doorway, at the dark, at the space inside our own boat. And for the first time since we started this escort, I understood something I couldn't ignore anymore. The ferry didn't bring passengers to the dock. It delivered them to us. And we never saw it happen. The sea was flat when the call came in. Too flat. No wind. No waves. Just a long stretch of dark water that looked almost solid under the night sky. I remember thinking how quiet it was. Even the engine sounded softer, like the sound didn't want to travel. Then the radio snapped alive. "Mayday, Mayday, this is passenger ferry." The voice cut for a second. Static swallowed the rest. I grabbed the mic immediately. "Ferry, repeat Mayday. Identify yourself." A pause. Then the voice came back. "We've collided, we've hit something." My eyes moved across the water. There was nothing there. No lights, no silhouettes, no debris, just empty black water. "Say again, what did you collide with?" I asked. Static crackled. Then, "I don't know." The voice sounded strained, breathing hard, like he had been running, or trying not to panic. I exchanged a look with Hassan beside me. He was already scanning the radar, shaking his head slightly. Nothing on screen. "Ferry, give your position," I said. The response came fast. Too fast. Like he had been waiting for that question. "Coordinates incoming." I grabbed my pen. "Ready?" 37.118 by 122.409. My hand froze. For a second, I didn't write, because something about those numbers felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. "Repeat coordinates," I said. 37.118 by 122.409. Same tone, same rhythm. I wrote them down this time. Hassan leaned closer. Plot it, he said. I nodded, entered the numbers into the system. The screen blinked. Then, nothing. No marker. No signal. No contact, Hassan muttered. I tried again. Slower. Careful. Still nothing. Ferry, your coordinates are not registering. I said. Confirm position. Silence. Then, we're not moving. I looked back at the water. Still calm. Still empty. You reported a collision. I said. What did you hit? A pause. Longer this time. Then, it wasn't there before. The words came out quieter, more controlled. But something under them felt wrong. Like he was trying to convince himself. Describe the object, I said. Static. Then, it didn't feel like an object. I felt a chill run through me. Hassan looked at me. Same reaction. Was it another vessel? I asked. No, the captain said instantly. Too instantly. It was under us. I glanced at the water again. Flat. Still. Nothing breaking the surface. Nothing moving below. At least, nothing we could see. Any damage? Hassan asked. I relayed. The response came slower. No breach, no water intake. A pause. But we stopped. I frowned. Stopped how? We just stopped. The engine behind us hummed steady. I looked at the ferry's supposed position again. Empty. How many passengers on board? I asked. Routine question. Important in distress. 72? I wrote it down. 72. Simple. Normal. But my pen didn't feel steady anymore. Because that number, it triggered something. Something I couldn't quite reach. Any injuries? Hassan asked. I passed it on. Silence. Then, they're standing. I blinked. What? All of them. The voice dropped lower. They're all standing. Hassan frowned. That's not what I asked. I shook my head. Captain, report injuries. I said, clearly. No response. Just breathing. Heavy now. Uneven. They won't sit down, he whispered. A strange tension built in my chest. Captain, remain calm. I said, check your passengers. The reply came instantly. Too instantly. I am... A pause. Then, they're looking at something. I felt my grip tighten on the mic. Looking at what? Silence. The kind that stretches too long. Then, the water. I turned slowly. Looked out across the surface again. Still nothing. Still empty. Do you see anything in the water? I asked. No answer. Just breathing. Then, it's right under us. My stomach tightened. How large is the object? Hassan asked. The captain didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice sounded different. Lower. Almost distant. It's not an object. A pause. It's moving. My heart started to beat faster. How? I asked. It's matching us. The words felt wrong the moment they landed. Matching us. Not following. Not approaching. Matching. Hassan leaned closer to the radar again. Still nothing. No contact. No movement. No signal. Captain, we have no visual or radar confirmation. I said, are you sure? It's not on your systems. He cut me off. His voice sharper now. More certain. It's under us. A deep silence followed. Then, and it's under you too. My chest went tight. I looked down at the water beside our boat. Black. Still. Endless. Nothing there. But something felt different. Like the surface wasn't as empty as it looked. Like something just below it was waiting. Hassan, I said quietly. He didn't look at me because he was already staring at the water. You feel that, he whispered. I didn't answer because I did. A faint vibration. Through the hull. Soft. Rhythmic. Not engine. Not waves. Something else. It's coming up, the captain whispered. The radio crackled softly. The signal dipped, then returned. Don't move, he said. My grip tightened on the rail. We're not moving, I replied. I didn't mean your boat. A pause. Then, I meant you. My breath caught. The vibration under us grew slightly stronger. Still soft, still slow, but steady, like something large, rising. The water stayed flat, perfectly calm. No ripple, no disturbance. Nothing to prove what we were feeling, except the captain's voice. It's almost at the surface. I couldn't look away, couldn't move, because something deep inside me knew if it broke the surface, we wouldn't be dealing with a collision anymore. We'd be dealing with whatever the ferry hit first. And whatever it was, it had been there long before the call came in, waiting, right under the water. For both of us, there was nothing there. That's the part that still sits wrong with me. We reached the coordinates exactly as given. Same numbers, same position, same calm water. But the ferry, gone. No lights, no sound, no debris, no wake, nothing. Just open sea, flat and empty like no one had ever been there. You sure those were the coordinates? Hassan asked. His voice was low, careful, like he already knew the answer. I looked down at the log again. 37.118 by 122.409. Exactly what the captain said. Exactly what I entered. Yeah, I said, this is the spot. Hassan scanned the horizon again. Slow, methodical, like if he moved too fast. He might miss something, but there was nothing to miss. The fog was thinner here. Not gone, just stretched, like it had been pulled apart. Ferry Aurora, respond, I said into the radio. Static, no voice, no breathing, no signal, just empty noise. I tried again. Ferry Aurora, this is Coast Guard Patrol. Respond. Nothing. Hassan adjusted the radar. Zoomed in, zoomed out, tapped the screen once. Then again. No contact, he said. I didn't answer, because I was staring at the water. Something felt off. Not visually. Everything looked normal. But the silence, it felt too complete. Like the ocean itself was holding its breath. Check for debris, Hassan said. I nodded, grabbed the spotlight, swung it slowly across the surface. Left to right, right to left. The beam cut clean through the darkness, revealing nothing. No broken wood, no life jackets, no oil slick, no sign of impact. If they collided, something should be here, I said. Hassan nodded. Yeah, but his voice didn't sound convinced, because we both knew this wasn't a normal collision. The radio crackled suddenly. Both of us froze. I grabbed the mic. Ferry Aurora, go ahead. Static, then a faint sound. So quiet I almost missed it. Breathing, slow, uneven. My chest tightened. Hassan, I whispered. He heard it too. I could see it in his face. The way his eyes shifted. Focus, tense. Captain, respond. I said. The breathing continued. No words, just that soft, human sound. But it didn't feel human. Not out here. Not like this. Where are you? I asked. The breathing stopped. For a second, complete silence. Then, we're still here. The voice came through suddenly. Clear, too clear. I turned slowly, scanning the water again. There's nothing here, I said. We're at your coordinates. A pause. Then, so are we? My stomach dropped. Hassan leaned closer. What does that mean? He muttered. I shook my head slightly. No idea. Identify your position relative to us, I said. The reply came slower this time. We can see you. I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. Where? I asked. No answer. Just breathing again. I turned in a full circle. Slow. Careful. Water. Fog. Darkness. Nothing else. You're not in visual range, I said. We are, the captain whispered. A pause. Then, you're just not looking the right way. My grip tightened on the mic. What does that mean? Hassan said sharply. No response. The radio went quiet again, but the feeling, it stayed. That heavy, watching feeling, like something was just out of sight, close enough to touch. Scan again, Hassan said. I nodded, raised the spotlight, moved it slower this time. Careful, focused. Then, for a split second, I thought I saw something. A ripple, not like a wave, not like wind. Something circular, gone as soon as the light touched it. Did you see that? I asked. Hassan stepped closer. Where? I pointed. There. We both stared. The water stayed still, perfectly calm. Probably current, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I, because the ripple, it moved against the current. The radio clicked again. Don't shine the light, the captain said. My breath caught. Why? I asked. No answer, just static. Then, it reacts. I slowly lowered the spotlight, my heart beating faster now. React to what? Hassan asked. Silence. Then, movement. I froze, looked at Hassan. He was already still, both of us standing there, not moving, not speaking, just listening. The water stayed calm. The fog barely shifted. Then, a soft sound, right beside the boat. I turned my head slowly, too slowly, because I didn't want to see it. A faint ripple, closer this time, right next to the hull, circular, expanding outward. No source, no splash, no break in the surface, just movement. Underneath, my chest tightened. It's below us, I whispered. Hassan didn't respond, because he was already leaning over the side, looking down. Don't, I started. Too late. He stared into the water, silent, still. What do you see? I asked. No answer. Hassan. Nothing. My heart started to pound. Hassan, step back. Slowly, he raised one hand, pointed down, didn't look at me, just kept staring. I moved closer, against my better judgment, against every instinct screaming at me not to. I leaned over, just a little, just enough to see. At first, nothing, just dark water. Then, something shifted. Deep below, not clear, not sharp, just a darker shape, moving, matching us. Exactly like the captain said. Same speed, same direction. Not following, not chasing, matching. My breath caught. It's under both of us, I whispered. Hassan nodded slightly, still staring. Then, the shape stopped. We stopped too, without realizing it. The engine still ran, but the boat, it wasn't moving forward anymore. It just held position, like something underneath was holding in place. The radio crackled again. We told you, the captain whispered. My grip tightened on the edge. What is it? I asked. Silence. Then, we hit it. A pause. But it didn't move. My chest felt tight. Heavy. Where is your vessel? Hassan asked suddenly. The reply came instantly. Right where you are? I shook my head. That's not possible. You're in our path. The words didn't make sense. Not yet, but they felt wrong. Deeply wrong. I looked at the water again, at the shape below, at the way it stayed perfectly aligned with us. Then something hit me. A thought, sharp, unwanted. What if, I said slowly. Hassan looked at me. What? I swallowed. What if we're not at their coordinates? He frowned. What are you saying? I looked around, at the empty sea, at the fog, at the silence, then back at the water. What if we moved into theirs? The radio went quiet. No breathing, no static, nothing. And that silence, it felt like an answer, because suddenly the empty ocean didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied, like we had arrived somewhere we were never supposed to reach. I heard my own voice before I realized it was mine. That's what broke me. Not the signal, not the words. The voice. It came through the radio so clean, so clear, like I was standing right next to myself. Mayday, Mayday, this is Passenger Ferry. I froze. My hand tightened around the mic. Hassan looked at me, confused at first. Then his face changed, because he heard it too. We both did. We've collided, we've hit something. The exact same words. Same tone, same pauses, same breath between sentences. My chest went tight. That's the call, Hassan whispered. I nodded slowly. Didn't trust my voice, because I knew what he meant. It wasn't just similar. It was identical. Every second, every sound. Check the log, he said. I moved without thinking. Pulled up the recording. Scrolled back. Found the original Mayday. Played it. Mayday, Mayday. This is Passenger Ferry. Then I stopped it. The live transmission kept going. We've collided. We've hit something. I hit play again. Both voices overlapped. Perfectly. Not even a fraction off. Same timing. Same pitch. Same everything. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. That's not a repeat signal. I said, that's the same signal. Hassan stared at the screen. From when? He asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. The radio continued. Ferry, repeat Mayday. Identify yourself. I flinched. That was me. My voice. From earlier. Clear as day. Coming through the speaker. I looked at Hassan. He didn't look back. He was already listening. Already understanding. This is a playback, he said. But his voice didn't sound convinced. Because we both knew. Playback doesn't respond. Playback doesn't breathe. Playback doesn't react. We've hit something. The captain's voice came again. Same as before. Desperate. Controlled. Wrong. I grabbed the mic. My hand shaking slightly. Ferry Aurora, respond. Silence. For a split second. The loop broke. Then, respond. The word came back. But slower. Stretched. Distorted. Like it had been pulled apart. I froze. That wasn't in the original, Hassan said quietly. I nodded. No, it wasn't. The radio crackled. Then, Ferry Aurora, this is Coast Guard Patrol. Respond. My voice again, from earlier. But this time, it sounded different, slightly off, like the tone had shifted. Lower, colder. Why does it sound like that? I whispered. Hassan didn't answer, because the next line came through. We're not moving. The captain again. Same words, same delivery. But now, there was something underneath it. A second layer. Faint, barely there. Like another voice trying to speak at the same time. Do you hear that? I asked. Hassan nodded slowly. Yeah. His eyes stayed fixed on radio. There's something behind it. The loop continued. Every line, every response. Exactly as it happened before. But now, each pass felt heavier. Thicker, like the signal was building on itself. Layering, stacking. I leaned closer, listening harder. And that's when I noticed it. Between the words, in the gaps, there were sounds. Not static, not interference. Breathing, multiple, different rhythms, different depths. I pulled back slightly, my chest tight. That wasn't there before, I said. Hassan shook his head. No, it wasn't. The radio clicked again. The captain's voice returned. They're looking at the water, but this time, the sentence didn't stop. It kept going. They're looking at you. My heart skipped. That's new, Hassan said sharply. That was not in the original. I grabbed the mic again. Who is this? I said. No response. The loop didn't stop, didn't react. It just kept playing. But it wasn't the same anymore. It was changing. It's under us. It's under you. It's under. The words cut off suddenly. Then, silence. Complete silence. The kind that feels too loud. Too present. I held my breath. Waiting. Listening. Then, you already answered. The voice came through softly. Not the captain. Not me. Something else. Something new. I felt my grip tighten. What does that mean? Hassan asked. No response. Just a faint hum. Low. Constant. Then the loop started again. From the beginning. Mayday, Mayday. This is Passenger Ferry. I closed my eyes for a second. Just one. Trying to think. Trying to understand. But something didn't line up. Something felt off. I opened my eyes. Looked at the screen. At the timestamp. My breath caught. That's not right. I whispered. What? Hassan asked. I pointed. The time on the live transmission. It matched the time from the original call. Exactly. Same hour, same minute, same second. But that was hours ago, Hassan said. I nodded slowly. Yeah. The radio continued. We've collided. Same words, same tone, same everything. But the time, it wasn't updating. It wasn't moving forward. It was stuck, repeating, locked. Are we hearing the past? Hassan asked. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure. And then, something worse hit me. A thought, cold, sharp. What if we're not? I said slowly. Hassan looked at me. What? I swallowed. What if this isn't repeating? A pause. Then, what if it's happening again? The radio crackled, as if reacting to that. We're not moving, the captain said. But this time, there was something else in his voice. Something deeper. Something that didn't belong. We're still here. My chest tightened. The same words. From earlier. From the last chapter. But now, they were inside the loop. Blended into it. Like they had always been there. Hassan stepped back slightly. This isn't a recording, he said. No, I replied. My voice felt dry. Tight. It's a pattern. The water beside us shifted. Just slightly. A faint ripple. I turned my head slowly. The same circular movement. Same as before. Same position. Same size. Like it had reset too. The radio whispered softly. You reached us once. A pause. Then, you'll reach us again. My heart pounded harder, because suddenly, the empty sea didn't feel empty anymore. It felt repeated, like we were standing in the same moment. Again, and again, and again. And somewhere inside that loop, the ferry was still there, still calling, still waiting, for us to answer, the same way, every time. And I couldn't shake the feeling that next time, we wouldn't just hear the call. We'd be part of it. The lifeboat was already drifting when we saw it. No signal, no flare, just a shape in the fog that didn't belong. At first, I thought it was debris, something left behind. But as we got closer, the outline sharpened. Clean edges, bright orange sides. Perfect condition. Too perfect. There, Hassan said quietly. I was already staring at it. It moved slowly across the water, not with the current, not with the wind, just drifting, like it had its own direction. We adjusted course. Careful, slow. Neither of us said it out loud, but we both felt it. This shouldn't be here. Not like this. Not alone. Any signal? I asked. Hassan checked the console, shook his head. Nothing. No distress beacon. No emergency ping. No trace of where it came from. Just a silence. The same heavy silence that had been sitting on the water all night. We pulled alongside it, close enough to reach. I stood there for a second, just looking at it. The paint was fresh, not scratched, not worn. No marks from impact. No signs of panic. No damage, like it had been lowered gently into the sea. And then, left. Check inside, Hassan said. I didn't move right away. Something about it felt wrong. Too still, too quiet, like the boat was waiting. For what? I muttered under my breath. Hassan didn't hear me, or maybe he chose not to. I stepped forward slowly, grabbed the edge, pulled it closer. The rope was still coiled neatly along the side, untouched. That was the first thing that hit me. Lifeboats aren't neat, not after an emergency, not after people climb into them in fear. This one looked prepared, not used. I leaned in, looked inside. Blankets, folded, water rations, stacked, emergency kit, sealed, everything exactly where it should be. But no people, no movement, no signs anyone had ever been inside. Empty. Hassan asked. I nodded slowly. Yeah, but my voice didn't sound certain, because something didn't add up. Check the manifest, he said. I reached in, careful, picked up the clipboard attached near the front. Still dry, still clean, like it hadn't been touched. I flipped it open. Passenger count, assigned capacity, 72. My stomach tightened. Same number, same as the ferry. I looked back at Hassan. He saw in my face. What? He asked. I turned the clipboard toward him. Same count, I said. He frowned. That doesn't mean anything. But his voice was steady, because it did mean something. We both knew it. The radio crackled softly. We both froze. I grabbed the mic. Go ahead. Static. Then we sent out the captain's voice. Faint. Distant. But there. I looked down at the lifeboat. You deployed a lifeboat? I asked. No response. Just breathing. Slow. Heavy. They didn't want to stay, he whispered. My chest tightened. Who didn't? Hassan asked sharply. Silence. Then they said it was safer. A pause. Above it, I looked at the water again, at the dark surface. Still calm. Still empty. But now, it didn't feel empty. It felt close. Like something just under the surface was listening, watching, waiting. Where is your vessel now? I asked. No answer. Just a faint hum of the signal. Then, you already reached us, the captain said. The same words. Again, from the loop. But this time, they felt heavier, more real, more present. I looked back at the lifeboat, at the perfect arrangement, the untouched supplies, and something clicked, slow, unwanted. They didn't use it, I said quietly. Hassan frowned. What? They got in. I swallowed, but they didn't stay. He looked at the boat again, then back at me. What are you saying? I shook my head slightly. I don't know yet, but I felt it, deep in my chest. Something wasn't right about the inside of that boat. Not the supplies, not the space. Something else. I climbed in, carefully, slowly. The boat rocked slightly under my weight. The water shifted around it, but not much. Like even the sea didn't want to disturb it. I stood there, looking around. Everything in place. Everything untouched. Then I noticed it. The floor. Faint marks. Barely visible. Like scuffs. But not random. Not chaotic. They followed a pattern. A shape. I crouched down. Ran my hand lightly over them. Cold. Smooth. Footprints. Hassan asked. I nodded slowly. Yeah, but something felt wrong. They weren't spread out. They weren't scattered. They were grouped, all facing the same direction, toward the edge. I felt my chest tighten. They were all standing here. I said. Hassan leaned closer. Then what? I looked at the edge of the boat, at the dark water just beyond it, and I already knew the answer. They went over. Silence. Heavy. Unmoving. That doesn't make sense, Hassan said. No, I replied. It doesn't. The radio crackled again. We told them not to look, the captain whispered. My breath caught. Look at what? I asked. No answer. Just static. Then, it looks back. A cold feeling spread through me. I stood slowly, turned toward the water. Something shifted below. Faint, deep, that same shape. Still there. Still matching us. Still waiting. They saw it, I said quietly. Hassan didn't respond, because he already understood. The passengers. All 72. They didn't panic. They didn't fight. They didn't try to survive. They stood, together, looking at the same thing. Then they left the boat, one by one, or maybe all at once. The lifeboat rocked slightly. A small movement, but enough to feel. I froze. Hassan, I whispered. He was already staring at the water. The shape below us shifted again. Closer this time. Larger, more defined, but still not clear. Never clear, like it didn't want to be seen fully. Only felt. Only known. The radio whispered softly. It doesn't take you. A pause. Then, you go to it. My chest tightened. I stepped back instinctively, almost losing my balance. Grabbing the edge of the boat, I climbed out quickly, back onto our vessel, my hands shaking slightly. That thing, Hassan said, his voice low, tight, it's still here. I nodded. Yeah, the lifeboat drifted beside us. Still perfect, still untouched, still empty. But now, it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like a warning, a message left behind, not by the ferry, not by the passengers, but by whatever they saw, whatever they chose. I looked at the water one more time, at the shape beneath, and for a second, just a second, I felt the urge to lean over again, to look closer, to understand. But I stopped myself, because somewhere deep inside me, I knew that's exactly how they disappeared. And the worst part, I couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't stop wondering what they saw that made all of them leave safety behind and step into the dark water like they were answering something. The second voice didn't sound wrong at first. That's what made it worse. It sounded exactly like us. Same tone, same calm, same control. Coast Guard Patrol, confirm your position. I froze. The mic was still in my hand, but I hadn't spoken. Hassan turned slowly, eyes locked on me. You just said that? He asked. I shook my head. Slow, careful. No. The radio stayed quiet for a second. Then, Coast Guard Patrol, confirm your position. The exact same sentence. Again, same rhythm, same spacing, same breath between words. My chest tightened. That's your voice, Hassan said. I know, I whispered, but it wasn't just similar. It was identical. Every detail, every inflection, like someone had taken my voice and copied it perfectly. Respond, Hassan said. I hesitated. Something in me didn't want to answer that voice. But training kicked in. I raised the mic. This is Coast Guard Patrol. Identify yourself. A pause. Then, this is Coast Guard Patrol. Identify yourself. The words came back instantly. Same as mine, but not delayed, not echoed, spoken at the same time. I felt something twist in my chest. That's not a delay, Hassan said. No. I swallowed. It's answering. The radio crackled softly. Then, state your coordinates. My voice again. Clear, controlled, perfect. I hadn't said that. Not this time. But I had said it earlier, in the first exchange. Don't follow it, Hassan said quickly. Don't repeat the pattern. I nodded, lowered the mic slightly, but the voice didn't stop. State your coordinates. It said it again, slightly louder, more direct, like it was expecting an answer. I stayed silent. The boat felt heavier, the air thicker, like something was pressing down on us. Waiting, the voice shifted, subtle, but noticeable. Why aren't you responding? My breath caught. That wasn't from earlier. That was new. That's not part of the loop, I whispered. Hassan shook his head. No, it's adapting. The word sat heavy between us. Adapting. Learning. The radio clicked again. Coast Guard Patrol, do you copy? My voice, but softer now. Closer. Like it wasn't coming from the speaker anymore. Like it was coming from somewhere else. Somewhere near. I looked around instinctively. The deck, the water, the fog. Nothing. But the feeling. It was there. That same watching presence. Closer than before. Say something different, Hassan said. Break it. I nodded. Raised the mic again. This is Patrol Unit 7. Identify your vessel. A new sentence. Different words. Different structure. For a second, nothing. No response. Then, this is Patrol Unit 7. Identify your vessel. Perfect copy. No delay. No distortion. Just repetition. My chest tightened further. It's listening in real time, I said. Hassan didn't respond, because something else happened. The second voice spoke again, but this time, it didn't copy me. It spoke first. Do you see it? I froze. My mouth went dry. I didn't say that. I whispered. Hassan nodded slowly. I know. The water beside us shifted. That same ripple. Closer now, almost touching the hull. The shape beneath. It moved slightly, adjusting, aligning. The radio continued. Do you see it? The same question. But now, it felt directed, personal, like it was asking me. I didn't answer. Couldn't, because part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to lean over, to look, to understand. No, Hassan said sharply. Don't engage. I stepped back slightly. putting distance between me and the edge. The voice changed again. Subtle, but deeper. You already did. My breath caught. A flash hit my mind. Quick, unclear. Me, leaning over the side earlier, looking into the water, at that shape. Was that what it meant? Don't listen, Hassan said, but his voice sounded strained now, tight, like he was fighting something. The radio crackled again. Then, Hassan, the name came through softly. I turned instantly. He froze, because that was his voice, calling his own name. You hear that? I asked. He nodded slowly, didn't speak, because the voice came again. Hassan looked down. His breathing changed. Slight, but I noticed. Faster, shallower. Don't, I said quickly. He didn't move, but his eyes, they shifted toward the water, just for a second, then back to me, then again, like something was pulling his attention. The voice whispered again, closer, softer. You saw it first. I stepped closer to him. Hey, stay with me, I said. He nodded, but barely. The radio clicked. Then, my voice again. Hey, stay with me. The exact same words, same urgency, same tone, but it didn't come from me. It came from the speaker, and it came a second before I said it. I froze. Hassan's eyes widened. It spoke first, he whispered. My heart started to race, because that meant it wasn't copying anymore. It was predicting, or worse, leading. The water shifted again, stronger this time. A faint push against the hull. The shape below, closer, larger, almost visible. Almost, but never fully. The voice spoke again. Both voices now, mine and Hassan's, together, blended. Look down. The words echoed slightly, layered, not perfect anymore, not clean, breaking, like something inside the signal was stretching, trying to hold multiple shapes at once. Hassan took a step forward, just one, toward the edge. Stop, I said. He didn't respond. Another step, slow, controlled, like he wasn't fully aware. Hassan, I grabbed his arm, pulled him back. Hard. He blinked, like waking up. What? He started, then stopped, because the radio screamed. Not loud, but sharp at a sudden spike of sound. Then, you pulled him away. The voice, calm again, cold, observing. I felt a chill run through me. Yes, I said before I could stop myself. Silence. Then, you changed it. My chest tightened. Change what? The loop? The pattern? The outcome? The water went still again. Completely still. Like nothing had ever moved. The shape below, gone, or hidden, or waiting. Hassan stepped back fully now, breathing hard. What just happened? He asked. I didn't answer, because I was staring at the radio, waiting. The voice didn't come back immediately, but I knew it would, because it wasn't done with us. Not yet, and the worst part, it didn't feel like we were listening to it anymore. It felt like it was listening to us, learning us, becoming us. And next time it spoke, I wasn't sure whose voice it would use, or which one of us it would choose to replace. I saw the warning on the screen. I just chose to ignore it. That's the truth. No excuses, no confusion. The route was marked restricted. Flashing amber on the navigation display. Fog advisory. Temporary closure. But the sea ahead looked calm. Too calm, if I'm being honest. Flat water. No swell. No wind pushing against the hull. Just a thin layer of fog sitting low, like it didn't want to rise. Captain, we should reroute, Malik said from behind me. I didn't turn. I kept my eyes on the path ahead. It was shorter, cleaner, straight through. We'll lose 40 minutes. I said, regulations say. I know what they say. My voice came out sharper than I meant. I took a breath, adjusted my grip on the wheel. There's nothing out there, I added. And I believe that. At least, I thought I did. Malik stepped closer, lowered his voice. It's not about what we see, he said. It's about why they closed it. That made me pause, just for a second, because he wasn't wrong. Routes don't close without reason. But still, I looked ahead again. at the fog. It wasn't thick. Not really. I could still see the waterline, still see the faint horizon. It's light, I said. Visibility's fine. Malik didn't answer. And that silence, it felt heavier than any argument. I reached forward, tapped the screen, cleared the warning. The amber flash disappeared, replaced by a clean route line cutting straight through the fog. Simple, direct, done. We're proceeding. I said. No one responded. Not Malik, not the deck crew over comms. Just quiet. That same quiet I've been feeling since we left port. I pushed the thought aside, focused on the controls. The engine responded smoothly. The ferry moved forward, cutting into the fog. At first, nothing changed. The water stayed calm. The fog stayed thin. The world stayed normal. I almost felt stupid for hesitating earlier. Almost. Then the compass flickered. Just once. A quick twitch. Barely noticeable. I frowned, tapped the glass lightly. It steadied. Back to normal. Probably interference. I muttered. Malik didn't react, but I saw him glance at it, just for a second. Then away. We moved deeper into the fog. It thickened slowly. Not all at once. Just enough that the horizon faded. Then the waterline. Then everything beyond 50 meters. The outside world shrank, until it was just us, and white. Reduce speed, Malik said. I nodded, pulled it back slightly. The engine softened. The ferry slowed. But the sound, it didn't travel the same way anymore. It felt muted, like the fog was absorbing it, holding it close. You hear that? Malik asked quietly. I did, or rather, I didn't hear what I should have. No distant waves, no wind, no echo of our own movement, just the engine, and even that felt dampened. Yeah, I said. Neither of us liked it. I checked the radar. Clear. No contacts. No obstacles. No other vessels. Just empty space. Still nothing. I said. Malik nodded, but he didn't look relieved. He looked uneasy, like nothing wasn't the same as safe. We continued forward. Slow. Steady. Then a soft sound. So faint I almost missed it. A low thump. I froze. What was that? Malik asked. I didn't answer right away. I listened. Waited. Nothing. Just silence again. Probably drift, I said, but my voice didn't sound convincing. Because the sound, it didn't come from the side or the front. It came from below. Directly below. We kept moving. Another few seconds. Then, thump. Stronger this time. Clear. Both of us heard it. That's not drift, Malik said. I nodded slowly. My hands tightened on the wheel. Check below deck, I said. He hesitated, just for a moment, then turned, left the bridge. I stayed, alone now, with the controls, with the fog, with the water, the silence pressing harder. The engine felt louder now, or maybe everything else just felt too quiet. I glanced at the radar again. Still clear. Nothing. Then the compass twitched again. Longer this time. The needle shifted slightly, then corrected, then shifted again. My chest tightened. That's not right. I leaned closer, watched it. It moved again, slow, uncertain, like it didn't know where north was anymore. The intercom crackled. Captain? Malik's voice. Tight, lower than usual. Go ahead, I said at a pause. Then, there's nothing down here. I frowned. What do you mean? I mean nothing. Another pause. It's too clean. That didn't make sense. What are you talking about? The hull is fine, he said. No damage. No marks. No sign of impact. I swallowed. But we heard it. I know. Silence. Then it felt like something hit us. My grip tightened. Check again, I said. I did. Another pause. There's nothing there. The line went quiet. I stared at the fog ahead. Something felt wrong. Deeply wrong. Come back up, I said. No response. Malik. Nothing. The intercom stayed silent. A cold feeling spread through my chest. Malik. Respond. Still nothing. Then a third thump. Louder. Stronger. The entire ferry shuddered slightly. I grabbed the console, heart pounding. What the hell? The radar flickered, just for a second. Then, a blip directly under US that MY breath caught. A single point, faint, unstable. But there, I leaned closer, trying to focus, trying to lock it in. But it didn't behave like a normal contact. It didn't move across the screen. It stayed fixed, perfectly aligned with us. Matching. Exactly. My chest tightened. Malik, I whispered. No answer. The intercom crackled again. Then, it's under us, his voice. But wrong. Too calm. Too steady that I grabbed the mic. Malik, where are you? Silence. Then, it wasn't there before. The same words. I froze, because I knew that sentence. I hadn't heard it yet, but somehow, I knew I would. The radar blip pulsed slightly. Stronger now. Clearer. Still directly beneath us. Not moving. Not drifting. Just there. Waiting. The fog outside thickened again. Until the windows showed nothing but white. No water. No horizon. No world. Just blank space. And the feeling that we had crossed something. Not a line. Not a boundary. Something else. Something we weren't meant to enter. The intercom whispered softly. We've stopped. I looked at the engine readout. Still running. Still pushing. But the ferry, it wasn't moving forward anymore. It just held position. Like something below had taken hold. My hands trembled slightly. Because deep down, I understood something I didn't want to accept. We didn't hit anything. We reached it. And whatever was under us, it knew we were there. The radar filled up all at once. No warning. No slow build-up. Just empty, and then suddenly not. I blinked hard, leaned closer to the screen. Dots. Dozens of them. Small, bright returns scattered across the display. Too many. Way too many. My first thought was interference. Some kind of glitch, because there was no way that many vessels were around us without a single light, without a single sound. I wiped my palm on my pants and tapped the screen. The dots didn't disappear. They flickered slightly, but they stayed, clustered, surrounding us. Not far either. Close. Too close. My throat went dry. Malik, I said instinctively. Then I remembered. No answer. The intercom sat quiet, dead, like it had been cut off. Another appeared. Then another. The system updated again. Now the screen looked crowded, messy, like we were drifting in the middle of heavy traffic. But outside, I turned my head slowly toward the windows. Nothing, just white fog. No lights, no shadows, no shapes moving through the water. Just empty. That didn't match. That didn't make any sense. I swallowed, forced myself to think straight. Okay, I whispered. Check the range. I adjusted the radar scale. Zoomed out slightly. The dots stayed. More appeared at the edges. Not spreading out. They were already there. The system just hadn't shown them before. My chest tightened. Impossible. I leaned closer. Focus on one return. Try to lock onto it. Usually you get some data. Speed. Heading. Something. But this. Nothing. No vector line. No movement. Just a fixed point. I watched it. Waited. 10 seconds. 20. It didn't drift. Didn't shift. Didn't react. It just stayed exactly where it was. Then, another one blinked out. Gone. I froze. Stared at the spot. Then another disappeared. And another. Not fading. Not moving away. Just there. Then not. My heartbeat picked up. Because that wasn't how real vessels behaved. Even if they changed direction, even if they shut down, they didn't just vanish like that. A low hum crept into the bridge. At first, I thought it was the engine, but it felt different, deeper, like it was coming through the floor, through the structure of the ferry itself. I glanced at the engine readout again. Still running, still steady. But the hum, it didn't match the numbers. It felt slower, heavier, like something underneath was responding. The radar flickered again. More dots. Closer now. They were tightening around us. forming something, a shape. I squinted, tried to make sense of it. It wasn't random anymore. They were aligning, like a ring, encircling us. Perfectly. My fingers trembled as I reached for the radio, pressed the transmit button. This is Ferry escort vessel, requesting traffic confirmation in restricted zone. My voice sounded thin, smaller than usual. Any nearby vessels respond on channel. I released the button, waited, static, just static. Then a voice, faint, crackling. Copy? I leaned in fast. Say again, identify yourself. Silence. Then, holding position, my breath caught. The words felt wrong, not the content. The tone, flat, empty, like it wasn't meant for me. Identify your vessel, I said, louder now. No response. The radar shifted again. The ring tightened. Smaller, closer. The dots were almost touching our position now. My hands started to sweat. Where are your lights? I whispered. I turned again toward the windows. Still nothing. Not even a reflection. Not even a shadow through the fog. Just white, blank, like the world had been erased. The hum deepened. The floor vibrated slightly under my boots. And then the ferry moved. Not forward, not backward. Just turned, slowly. On its own. I grabbed the wheel, pulled against it. Nothing. No response. The controls felt loose, disconnected. What is this? The radar pulsed. The dots shifted. The ring broke, reformed. Now it wasn't a circle. It was a line, straight, cutting across the screen. And we were being aligned with it. My stomach dropped because I realized something. Those weren't ships. They weren't moving like ships. They weren't behaving like anything I'd ever seen on water. They were markers, positions, fixed, waiting. The radio crackled again. Ready? Same voice, same empty tone. My throat tightened. Ready for what? I asked. No answer. The line on the radar sharpened. The dots stabilized. Perfectly spaced. Perfectly still, like they had locked into place. And we were now directly on top of that line. Centered. Exactly. The hum beneath us grew stronger. I could feel it in my chest now. In my bones. Like standing too close to something alive. Something breathing slow and deep. The intercom hissed suddenly. Then Malik's voice. But not quite. Captain. I grabbed it instantly. Malik, where are you? A pause. Then, don't move. My grip tightened. I can't control it, I said. We're not moving, he replied. I froze. What? We're not moving, he repeated. You just think we are. My heart skipped. I looked at the radar, the line, the dots, the alignment. Then I looked at the speed readout, still showing forward motion, still showing progress. But the outside, the fog, it hadn't changed at all, not even slightly. No shift, no drift, no sign that we had gone anywhere. A cold realization settled in. We stopped a long time ago, Malik said softly. The words hit harder than anything else, because deep down, I felt that strange stillness, that unnatural silence. We hadn't been moving, not really. The radar pulsed again. The dots flickered. Then, for just a second, they changed, not into shapes, not into ships. Something else. Something I couldn't fully understand. But I saw enough to feel my chest tighten, enough to make me step back from the screen. Because, whatever they weren't above the water. They weren't even on it. They were below. All of them, fixed under the surface. Lined up, waiting. The radio whispered one last time. You're in position? I didn't respond. I couldn't, because I finally understood what the radar was showing me. Not traffic, not vessels, not danger to avoid. It was showing where we were supposed to be. And the worst part, the part that made my hands go cold, was that every single one of those points had once been exactly where we were now. I saw it before the radar did. That's what stayed with me. Not the shape, not the size, Just the fact that my eyes caught something before the system did. At first, I thought it was just a fog shifting, a darker patch, barely there, off the port side. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something about it felt solid, like it wasn't moving with the fog, like it was standing still inside it. I leaned closer to the glass, squinted, tried to focus. "Come on," I whispered. The ferry crept forward. Or at least, it felt like it was. The hum below stayed constant. Heavy, alive. The shape got clearer, slowly. Not because it moved, but because we did. Or because something changed between us. And then, I saw the edge. Straight, sharp, not natural. Not fog, metal. My breath caught. No! I wiped the window with my sleeve. Cleared a small patch. And there it was. A hull, dark, massive, sitting in the water like it had always been there. No lights, no markings, no movement. Just there. "Where did you come from?" I whispered. The radar pinged softly. I turned my head. There was now a return. Single, large, dead ahead. I laughed once. A short, dry sound. "Now you see it?" Too late. Way too late. I turned back to the window. The ship was closer now. Too close for something that size to appear without warning. We should have seen it miles out. Should have tracked it long before this. But we didn't, because it wasn't there. Not until it was. I reached for the radio. Pressed transmit. "Unidentified vessel. This is Ferry escort. State your position and status." My voice echoed faintly in the cabin, then vanished into static. No reply. I tried again. "Unidentified vessel. Respond immediately." Nothing. The ferry kept moving. Closer. Closer. The shape filled more the window. Tall. Long. Wrong. There were no lights. Not even emergency ones. No navigation signals. No deck lamps. Nothing. A ship that size should have been glowing in this fog. But it wasn't. It swallowed light. Even the faint reflection from our own bridge seemed to die when it touched that hull. My skin prickled. "Malik," I said under my breath. Still no answer. The intercom stayed silent. Dead, like the rest of the world. The radar flickered again. The other dots, the ones below, they were gone now. All of them, except this one. This single contact. Centered, dominating the screen. Like everything else had stepped aside for it. The ferry drifted closer. I grabbed the wheel again. Tried to turn. Nothing. No resistance. No control. "We need to move," I said, but the ship didn't listen. We were on a path. A straight line. Directly toward it. The fog shifted slightly. Just enough for me to see more. The side of the vessel stretched out into the white. Longer than I expected. Endless, almost. I couldn't see the bow. Couldn't see the stern. Just a section of it. Like the rest was hidden somewhere else. That didn't make sense. Nothing about this made sense. A faint sound reached me. At first, I thought it was a hum. But this was different. Higher. Softer. Like something dragging slowly across metal. I froze. Listen. There was again. A long, slow scrape. Coming from the direction of the ship. My chest tightened. "Is someone there?" I called out without thinking. The words felt stupid the second they left my mouth. Because I already knew the answer. No lights. No signals. No response. Nothing alive should be on that thing. And yet, that sound. It came again. Closer this time. Like it had heard me. The ferry edged alongside the hull. Too close now. Dangerously close. I could see details. Or at least, what should have been details. The surface wasn't right. It wasn't clean steel. It looked uneven. Warped. Like it had been in the water too long. Or somewhere worse. There were lines etched into it. Not scratches. Not damage. Patterns. Faint. Repeating. I leaned closer. Tried to understand them. But the more I looked, the less they made sense. My eyes couldn't hold on to them. Like they shifted when I wasn't focusing. Like they didn't want to be seen clearly. The scraping sound stopped. Just like that. Gone. Replaced by silence again. I held my breath, waited, nothing. Then, a movement, slow, subtle, on the surface of the hull. I blinked, tried to focus. There, something moved along the side. A shadow. No, not a shadow. Something darker than the hull itself, sliding along it, keeping pace with us. My stomach dropped, because it wasn't drifting. It was following, matching our speed, staying right beside the bridge, watching. I stepped back instinctively, heart pounding. "What are you?" I whispered. The thing stopped, right across from me. Still, perfectly still. The fog shifted again, and for 1 second, just one, I thought I saw a shape. Not human, not anything I could name. Just something that shouldn't have been there. Then it was gone, vanished into the surface, like it had never existed. I stumbled back, hit the console. The radar pulsed sharply. The contact, gone. No fade, no movement. Just there, then not. My breath came fast. Shallow. I rushed to the window. Looked out. The hull. It was disappearing. Not moving away. Not sinking. Just fading into the fog. Like it had never been solid to begin with. No, no, no. I pressed my hand against the glass, trying to hold on to it, trying to make it stay. But it didn't. It slipped away, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. Just white, empty, silent. The ferry kept moving, or felt like it did. The hum below returned, steady, deep, like nothing had happened. The radar screen cleared. No contacts, no lines, no markers. Just us, alone again. I stood there, breathing hard, trying to make sense of it, trying to tell myself it was fog, reflection, fatigue, anything. But one thought wouldn't go away. One quiet, creeping realization. We didn't pass that ship. It let us pass. And whatever was on it, whatever moved along that hull, it didn't stay behind. It came with us. Because as I slowly turned back toward the cabin, I heard it again. That same soft scraping sound. This time, from somewhere inside the ferry. I didn't call for help. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head, over and over. I never made the call, but something answered anyway. The radio clicked softly, not static, not interference. A clean, sharp click, like someone pressing transmit with purpose. I froze. My hand hovered over the console, waiting, listening. Then, escort vessel. This is Coast Guard Unit 47. We have you on approach. Maintain heading. My heart slammed hard against my ribs. For a second, relief hit me. Fast, strong, like air rushing back into lungs I didn't know were empty. Unit 47, this is... I stopped, swallowed. We didn't request assistance. A pause. Short, too short. We're aware, the voice replied. Calm, professional, perfect. That should have reassured me. It didn't. Something about the way he said it, flat, like reading from a script. We have a situation here, I said. Unidentified vessel, abnormal radar. Maintain heading, the voice repeated. Same tone, same pacing. No change. Like my words hadn't mattered. Like they weren't even heard. I stared at the radio, then slowly looked up, through the fog, and that's when I saw it. A shape, cutting through the white. Low, fast. A vessel, smaller than ours. Sharp lines, clean silhouette, moving with purpose. The kind of movement I trusted. The kind I'd spent years recognizing. Finally, I whispered. The tension in my chest loosened just a little. Just enough to make me step closer to the window. It came alongside us, matching speed perfectly. Close enough that I should have seen deck lights. Crew movement, signal flashes, but nothing. No lights, no markings, no flag. Just a dark shape gliding through the fog like it didn't need to be seen. My relief cracked slightly. Unit 47 confirmed visual. I said, "We are alongside." The voice replied instantly. I squinted, tried to make out details. There should have been color, stripes, identification numbers, something. But the surface of that vessel, it looked wrong. Too smooth, too blank. like the idea of a Coast Guard boat, but missing the details that made it real. Requesting identification code. I said, a pause, longer this time. Then, maintain heading. My fingers tightened. That's not a response. I said, sharper now. Silence. The boat outside drifted slightly closer. Too close. Close enough that I could see the edge of its deck. But there was no one on it. No movement. No crew. Just empty space. My mouth went dry. Where's your crew? I asked quietly. The radio crackled. On board, the voice replied. I stared at the vessel. Empty. Still wrong. No, I whispered. That's not true. The fog shifted, just slightly, and for a moment, I thought I saw something standing near the front of that boat. A figure, tall, still, facing us. But there was no detail, no face, just a shape where something should be. Then it was gone, like it had never been there. My breath came faster. Unit 47, identify yourself properly. I said. My voice wasn't steady anymore. We are here to guide you, the voice replied. Same tone, same calm, but now it felt colder. We don't need guidance, I said. We need extraction. Silence. The vessel outside shifted again, moving slightly ahead of us now, taking position, leading, just enough that we'd follow it without thinking. And that's when I realized we weren't controlling our direction anymore. We were following it. I looked down at the controls. Still unresponsive. Still dead. Malik. I said under my breath. Nothing. No answer. No sound from below. Just that hum. Always that hum. The radio clicked again. You are off course, the voice said. My stomach dropped. We've been holding the same heading. I replied. No, it said. You cross. Those words, they hit something deep inside me. Because I remembered the line on the radar, the alignment, the stillness. What did we cross? I asked. No answer. The escort vessel ahead slowed slightly, waiting, like it wanted us to catch up, like it was making sure we stayed close. I stared at it, at its empty deck, its blank surface, its perfect, unnatural movement, and a thought crept in, slow, heavy, unavoidable. This wasn't here to help us. It was here to keep us on track. To where? I whispered. The radio answered. You're already there. My chest tightened. That didn't make sense. None of this made sense. But it felt true in a way I couldn't explain. The fog thickened again, swallowing the edges of the escort vessel, blurring it, breaking it apart into pieces of shadow. For a second, it looked wrong. Not like a boat anymore. Like something pretending to be one. Then it snapped back, clear again, normal, if you could call any of this normal. I shook my head, tried to focus, tried to think. Turn away, I muttered, even though I knew it wouldn't work. I grabbed the wheel, pulled hard, nothing. The vessel ahead drifted slightly to the left, and we followed, without input, without command, like we were tied to it. Stop this, I said into the radio. No reply, just the sound of the signal, holding open, waiting, listening. The escort moved further ahead, deeper into the fog, its shape becoming less defined, less real. I felt it then, that same cold realization creeping back, the one I didn't want to accept. We weren't being guided out, we were being led deeper in. The radio whispered one last time, soft, almost gentle. Stay with us? I stared at the fading shape ahead, at the path we couldn't escape, at the silence behind us. And the thing that finally broke whatever was left of my certainty wasn't the voice, wasn't the empty vessel. It was the way the fog behaved around it. Because no matter how thick it got, no matter how much it swallowed everything else, that thing ahead of us never disappeared completely, like it didn't belong to the same world we did. And somehow, that made it easier for it to move through this place. Easier to lead. Easier to guide. Easier to make sure. We never found our way back. The first thing that didn't make sense was the date. I remember the smell before anything else. Not salt water. Not fuel. Something older. like wet paper left in a locked room for years. They handed me the logbook in a sealed plastic bag. Said it came up in a trawler net just before sunrise. No markings on the cover, just dark leather, cracked along the edges, like it had been sitting at the bottom of the sea for a long time. But when I touched it, it wasn't falling apart. It felt used, still intact, still holding together like someone had been turning those pages not long ago. I didn't say anything at first. I just signed the intake form, took the bag, and walked it into the office. The others were busy logging equipment checks. Nobody looked up. Routine. That word kept coming up in my head. Everything felt routine, but it wasn't. I sat down at the metal desk by the window. The fog outside was thick, pressing against the glass like something alive. You couldn't see the water anymore, just a flat white wall. I opened the bag slowly. The seal peeled apart with a soft tearing sound that felt too loud in the quiet room. Then I slid the logbook out. Cold. That's what hit me next. Not just cool, cold, like it had its own temperature, like it didn't belong in the room. I hesitated. I don't know why. It was just a logbook. We recover things like this all the time. Personal effects. Wreckage. Bits of stories that end somewhere out there. But my hand didn't move right away. Then I opened it. The first page was blank. Second page, too. Third, nothing. I flipped faster. Page after page, empty. Clean. No water damage. No ink bleed. Nothing. I almost laughed. Great. I muttered under my breath. Empty book. But then I reached the middle, and everything changed. The ink started there. Sharp. Dark. Like it had just been written. My chest tightened a little. That didn't make sense. Ink doesn't survive like that underwater. Not for years. I leaned closer. The handwriting was neat. Careful. Like someone who took their job seriously. Date, April 17th. No year, just a day. Below it, departed at 21:40. Visibility low. Fog heavier than forecast. I felt something shift in my stomach. That was last night. Not years ago. Last night. I flipped back to the front again. Blank pages. Nothing. Then back to the entry. Still there. Same ink. Same words. I checked the recovery report again, just to be sure. Recovered from a sunken ferry. Believed lost 5 years prior. 5 years. But this entry wasn't 5 years old. I swallowed. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the book got mixed up. Maybe it came from a different vessel. That happens. Sometimes. I kept reading. Passengers boarded without incident. Count verified. I paused. Something about that line felt off. Too formal. Too perfect. Like it was written for someone else to read. Then the next line. Escort requested but not confirmed. My fingers tightened on the page. Escort. That's us. That's what we do. But there was no escort log last night. I would have known. I was on duty. I felt a small pulse in my neck. Just a little faster than normal. I kept going. Channel 16 clear. No interference. That made me glance at the radio across the room. It was quiet. Too quiet. Usually there's always something. Static. Distant chatter. Background noise. But right now, nothing. I looked back down. 21:58. Fog density increasing. Lights from shore no longer visible. I could picture it. The ferry cutting through the dark water. The fog swallowing everything behind it. I've seen that before. Too many times. Then, 22:07. Unidentified contact reported port side. My breath slowed. Unidentified contact. That's not a phrase you write lightly. I leaned closer to the page. Visual confirmation unclear. No responsive signal. I felt a cold line run down my spine. No response. That's never good. I flipped to the next page. More entries. Closer together now. Like whoever wrote them was starting to rush. 22:11, contact still pacing vessel. Pacing. I looked toward the window again. The fog hadn't moved. Still pressing in. Still hiding everything. I imagined something out there. Keeping speed. Matching distance. Just outside sight. I shook my head. No, that's just my mind filling in gaps. I went back to the book. 2214, passenger count discrepancy reported. I froze. That again. Passengers. Count discrepancy. Same words from another report I'd seen once. Years ago. I didn't like where this was going. Crew verifying. Recount in progress. Numbers do not match manifest. My hand shifted slightly. I didn't realize it, but I was gripping the edge of the desk now. Hard. 2218. Additional passengers observed on lower deck. Observed. Not boarded. Not recorded. Observed. I felt my mouth go dry. I flipped faster now. The writing changed. Messier. Less controlled. Like whoever wrote, it was losing focus. 2221. Attempt to isolate individuals unsuccessful. 2223. They are not responding to crew. They do not acknowledge presence. I stopped breathing for a second. They, not passengers. They. The word sat wrong in my head, like it didn't belong. Then I turned the page, and that's where I saw my name. I didn't understand it at first. I thought I misread it, but I leaned closer, and there it was, clear, written in the same ink, same handwriting. 2226. Contact made with Coast Guard operator. My name. My stomach dropped. No, that's not possible. I wasn't on comms last night. I wasn't even near Channel 16 at that time. I checked the timestamp again. 2226. I was off shift. At home. Asleep. So how? I read the next line. Operator confirmed escort en route. My hands went cold. I never said that. I never transmitted anything. There was no call, no record, nothing. And yet, here it was, written like it happened. I pushed my chair back slightly. The metal legs scraped against the floor. Too loud. Everything felt too loud now, even my breathing. I looked at the radio again. Still silent. But now it didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt like something was waiting, listening. I turned back to the book. I didn't want to, but I had to. The next entry. 2231. Second voice on channel. My heart skipped. Second voice. Voice confirms escort arrival. Voice matches Coast Guard transmission patterns. Matches. Not is. Matches. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Something heavy, like a realization trying to form. But not fully there yet. Not something I wanted to understand. I kept reading anyway. 2234. Crew reports visual contact with escort vessel. 2235. No identification lights visible. 2236. Vessel maintaining parallel course. I swallowed hard. No lights. No ID. Just there, moving with them like it belonged. Or like it was pretending to. I flipped the page. The handwriting broke. Lines uneven. Words pressed too hard into the paper. 2239. This is not Coast Guard. I stopped, just stared at that sentence. It felt like the room got smaller, like the walls moved in a little closer. This is not Coast Guard. Then the final line on the page. They are repeating everything. My ears rang. For a second, I thought I heard something behind me. A shift, a breath. I turned quickly. Nothing. Just the empty office. The fog at the window. The quiet. But it didn't feel empty anymore. I looked back at the logbook. There was one more page. Just one. I turned it slowly, carefully, like it might change if I moved too fast. The last entry wasn't complete. The ink trailed off near the end. Like whoever wrote it didn't get to finish. 2242. They are asking for coordinates. That was it. Nothing after that. Just a long line with a pen dragged across the paper. And stopped. I sat there for a long time. Not moving. Not thinking. Just staring at that unfinished sentence. Then the radio crackled. Soft. Almost too quiet to notice. But I heard it. I always hear it. A thin layer of static filled the room. And for a moment, I felt relief. Because static means signal. Signal means something normal. Something real. But then it changed. It shifted. Just slightly. And underneath the noise, I heard a voice. Faint. Broken. Repeating. Requesting coordinates. My blood ran cold because I recognized that voice. It was mine, and it was asking again, like it hadn't gotten an answer yet, requesting coordinates. I didn't touch the radio. I didn't respond. I just sat there, listening, as it repeated, over and over, like it was waiting for me to finish what I never started. The next entry wasn't there when I closed the book. I know that sounds wrong. I know how it sounds. But I remember exactly how I left it. The last line trailing off. They're asking for coordinates. And nothing after that. I closed it myself, slid it back into the plastic sleeve, set it on the desk. I even checked the time. 0:12. I remember because I told myself I'd go home at 1 o'clock. Just finish paperwork. Just log the recovery. Normal things. Routine things. But something kept pulling my eyes back to that bag. Like it didn't want to stay closed. Like it was waiting. I tried to ignore it. I turned on the overhead light. Too bright. It washed the room in this harsh white that made everything feel flat and unreal. The fog outside still hadn't moved. It pressed harder now, like it was closer to glass. I sat down again, opened the system, started typing the report, recovered logbook, condition intact. My fingers paused. Intact didn't feel like the right word, but I left it. Believed origin. Ferry incident 5 years prior. That felt even worse, because nothing about that book felt 5 years old. I kept typing anyway, because stopping would mean thinking, and thinking was starting to feel dangerous. That's when I heard the sound. Soft, a shift of paper. Behind me, I froze, didn't turn right away. Just listened. Nothing, only the low hum of the lights, the faint static from a radio, and something else, something quieter, like pages settling. I turned slowly. The plastic bag was still on the desk, but it wasn't sealed anymore. I stared at it. I hadn't touched it. I was sure of that. But the opening was slightly parted now, like something inside had moved. My chest tightened. I stood up, walked back toward it. Each step felt louder than it should, like the floor was echoing under me. I reached out, stopped just before touching it. For a second, I thought about leaving it alone, calling someone, handing it off, but that didn't feel right either, because whatever this was, it felt like it was already mine. I pulled the bag open, slowly, carefully, then I took the logbook out again. Still cold, still wrong. I opened it to the last page. The unfinished line was still there, but now there was more. My throat tightened. A new entry, below the broken sentence. Same handwriting, same ink, but a different date, April 18th. That was today. I didn't breathe for a second. I read it, 016, coordinates received. My stomach dropped. No, that didn't happen. I never gave coordinates. I didn't respond. I stayed silent. I remember that. I remember sitting there, listening to my own voice on the radio, asking, waiting, and I didn't answer. So how? My eyes moved down. Signal repeated until confirmation. Confirmation acknowledged. My hands started to shake. I felt in my fingers first, then my arms. A slow, creeping tremor, because I didn't confirm anything. I didn't say a word. I went back to the radio instinctively. It sat there, quiet again, like nothing had happened, like it hadn't just used my voice. I turned back to the book. More lines, more than there should be. 019, course adjusted. 021, escort vessel in position. Escort vessel. Again, I felt something twist in my chest. Tight, uncomfortable, like my body was trying to reject what I was seeing. 024, passengers instructed to remain seated. That word again. Passengers. But this ferry, it sank 5 years ago. There are no passengers. There shouldn't be anything. And yet, the entries kept going. 027, lower deck secured. 029, discrepancy unresolved. My breathing got shallow. I couldn't stop reading, even though every line made it worse. 031, additional movement reported below. Movement. Below. I imagined dark water pressing against metal walls. Empty hallways. Something shifting where nothing should be. I shut my eyes for a second, just a second, then opened them again. Still there, still real. I turned the page. More entries. Same date, same night, 034. Voices heard in storage compartment. My heart thudded. Voices do not match manifest. Voices repeating instructions. Repeating, like the radio. Like my voice. Like something learning. I stepped back without meaning to. The chair behind me scraped again. Loud. Too loud. I didn't care. I needed space. But I couldn't look away. 036. Attempted contact unsuccessful. 037. They are responding without speaking. I frowned. That didn't make sense. Responding without speaking? I leaned closer again. Like maybe I'd read it wrong. But the words stayed the same. Clear. Simple. Wrong. 039. Crew avoiding lower deck. 040. Doors closing without command. A cold wave moved through me. Not panic. Not yet. Something slower. Something heavier. Like dread settling into place. The kind that doesn't leave. I flipped again. My fingers moved faster now. I didn't even feel them anymore. Just the need to see what came next. 042. Escort vessel requesting access. My breath caught. Requesting access. To what? 043. No hatch open. 044. Access granted. I shook my head. No, that's not right. Those two lines didn't match. No hatch opened. Then, access granted. How? How does something get in if nothing opened? I felt my pulse in my ears now. Loud. Heavy. Like it was trying to drown everything else out. I forced myself to keep reading, even though every instinct told me to stop. 046. Presence confirmed on board. Presence. Not crew. Not passengers. Presence. 047. It knows the layout. My chest tightened. 048. It is using our voices. I stepped back again. Harder this time. The chair tipped slightly. I didn't fix it. I didn't care. Because something inside me had just shifted. Something real. Something solid. This wasn't just a logbook. This wasn't just old ink and paper. This was happening. Still happening. Somewhere. 049. It is asking for the operator again. My stomach dropped. Operator. That's me. That's 050. It knows his name. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't think. Just stared. Because the next line wasn't written the same way. It was darker. Pressed harder into the page. Like whoever wrote it was afraid. 051. It is not asking anymore. Silence filled the room. Thick. Heavy. The kind that makes your ears ring. I didn't want to turn the page. I knew there would be more. I knew it wouldn't stop there. But my hand moved anyway. Slow. Shaking. I turned it. And there it was. The final entry. No time. No date. Just one sentence. Written across the entire page. Large. Uneven. Like it wasn't written calmly. Like it was forced out. We are still moving. My throat went dry. Still moving. But the ferry, it sank. Years ago. It should be gone. Still. Finished. But this logbook said otherwise. I stood there for a long time. Not moving. Not thinking. Just staring at those words. Then, slowly, very slowly, the radio came alive again. Static first. Then a voice. Clearer this time. Closer. And it wasn't asking anymore. It was giving instructions. Using my voice. Calm. Steady. Familiar. Adjust course. I felt my knees weaken slightly. Because I knew that tone. I knew that cadence. It was exactly how I spoke on duty. Exactly how I gave orders. And then it said something new. Something I had never said before. Something I had never even thought. Bring us back. The last entry didn't make sense the first time I read it. It wasn't the words. It was a calm. After everything before it, the panic, the confusion, the way the handwriting had started to lean and shake, the final page looked steady, almost careful, Like whoever wrote it had finally stopped being afraid. That's what bothered me, because nothing about that logbook should have ended calmly. I remember holding it under the desk lamp, the paper still warped from salt water, edges stiff and cracked. My fingers smelled like rust and old ink. I kept telling myself it was just damage, just distortion from being underwater too long. But the ink on that last page was darker than the others. Newer. That was the first thing I couldn't explain. I flipped back a few pages. Compared them again. Earlier entries were faded, broken in places. This one, it bled clean into the paper, like it had been written yesterday. Or worse, like it hadn't been underwater at all. I told myself there had to be a logical reason. Maybe the center pages were protected somehow. Maybe I stopped thinking, because I realized something else. The date, it didn't match the timeline. The ferry went down officially 9 years ago. Every record confirmed it. Weather reports, coast logs, witness statements. Everything pointed to the same night. But the final entry, it was dated 3 days after that. I sat back in my chair, just stared at it. 3 days. That meant one of two things. Either someone survived the sinking, stayed alive out there, and kept writing. Or I didn't finish that thought. I leaned in again. Read the entry slowly this time. Out loud without meaning to. We did not sink. My voice sounded wrong in the room. Too loud, like it didn't belong there. I cleared my throat and kept reading. We thought we did. The impact, the sound, the tilt, people screaming, water coming in. The handwriting was clean, careful, almost detached, but the water never took us. I felt my stomach tighten. I went back to the previous entry, the one before this. That one described chaos, flooding, crew shouting, a Mayday call going out, then nothing, then this. No transition, no explanation, just calm. I read the next line. We are still moving. Something cold slid down my spine. I looked up from the page. Just for a second, the room felt different, quieter than it should have been. The hum of the overhead light sounded too distant, like it was coming from another room. I swallowed and kept going. No land in sight, no signal reaching anyone. The fog does not lift. Fog, that word again. It kept showing up in every report tied to this case. I remember the audio logs, the repeated Mayday call, the coordinates leading to empty water, the lifeboat with no crew. Everything had one thing in common. Fog. I looked back at the page. We passed shapes in the distance. Ships, maybe. They do not answer. They do not light. My hand tightened around the edge of the desk. I had read something like that before. Not in this book. In a separate report. A crew describing an unregistered vessel. No lights. No identification. My chest started to feel tight. I kept reading. Sometimes we hear engines that are not ours. I froze. Not because of the line, but because for a second, I thought I heard something too. A low sound. Deep, faint, like a motor far away. I held my breath. The room stayed still. The sound was gone. I let out a slow breath and forced myself to focus again. You told us to stay on course. So we did. My eyebrows pulled together. You. Who was that? Dispatch? Another ship? Or something else? I flipped back again, scanning earlier pages, looking for any mention of instructions, of someone guiding them. Nothing clear, just confusion. Panic. No control. So who were they listening to now? I went back to the final entry. We see lights sometimes. Familiar ones, like the shore. My chest tightened more. But when we move toward them, they move away. I rubbed my face. My eyes felt dry. I didn't like where this was going. I kept reading. The passengers are quiet now. That line hit harder than the others, because earlier entries had described chaos. People shouting, crying, running. Now they were quiet. Why? We do not count them anymore. I felt a small, sharp chill in my fingers. That line, it matched something else. Another report. Passenger counts changing mid-crossing. Numbers that didn't stay fixed. I leaned back again. This wasn't just one incident. This logbook, it connected to everything. Every strange report. Every unexplained call, every missing crew. My heart started beating faster. I looked back at the page. Some of them stand at the rail at night. I swallowed. They look into the water like they see something we do not. I didn't want to picture it, but I did anyway. Rows of people, silent, staring down into black water, not speaking, not moving, just watching. We tried to turn around. I leaned forward slightly. This was new, but the compass spins when we do. I let out a slow breath. Of course it did. Of course it wouldn't be that simple. We tried to stop. Another pause in the writing. A small gap, like the pen had lifted. We cannot. My throat felt dry again. I turned the page, thinking maybe there was more. There wasn't. Just that final paragraph. Sitting alone. And then the last line, written slightly darker than the rest, almost pressed into the paper. If you hear this, do not follow. I stared at it for a long time. Something about that line didn't feel like part of the log. It felt directed, like it wasn't written for the crew. It was written for whoever found it. For me, I shook my head, trying to push that thought away. That was stupid. It was just a warning. General, broad, nothing personal. I closed the book halfway, then stopped, because something didn't feel right. I opened it again. The last line looked different, not in words, in shape. I leaned closer. The ink, it wasn't fully dry. My breath caught in my throat. That wasn't possible. I reached out slowly. My finger hovered just above the page. Then I touched it, very lightly. It smudged, just a little, but enough. I pulled my hand back like I'd been burned. My chest started to rise faster. No, that couldn't be. I flipped back to the date again. 3 days after the sinking. But the ink, it wasn't 9 years old. It wasn't even a day old. It was fresh. I stood up too quickly. My chair scraped against the floor. The room felt smaller now. The walls closer. I looked around like I expected to see someone standing there. There was no one, just the desk, the lamp, the logbook, and the silence, that same heavy silence. Then the sound came back, faint, low, that same distant engine. This time I didn't ignore it. I moved toward the window, slowly. Each step felt heavier than it should. The sound grew slightly louder, still distant, still deep. I reached the window and looked out. There was nothing, just darkness. But the sound, it didn't match what I was seeing. It felt closer than the empty street outside, like it wasn't coming from there at all. I turned my head slightly, listening. The sound shifted, not outside. Behind me, I froze. My eyes moved slowly back toward the desk. The logbook was still open, the last page visible. I took a step closer. The sound grew clearer, a low hum, like something running, like an engine, like a ship moving through water. But we weren't near water, not for miles. I stopped at the edge of the desk. My hands felt cold. I looked down at the page, and for a second, I thought I saw something move. Not on the paper, under it, like a shadow passing beneath thin ice. I blinked. It was gone. I told myself it was my eyes. Just my eyes. But then I noticed something else. A new line at the very bottom, where there had been empty space before. I didn't remember it being there. I leaned closer. The ink was wet, still forming. I watched it, actually watched it, as the line finished itself. My breath stopped completely. It said, "We can see you now." I didn't move. I couldn't. The hum grew louder, closer, like something had turned toward me, from far away, from open water. And in that moment, I understood something I hadn't wanted to. The ferry didn't sink. It never stopped. It's still out there, still moving, still crossing. And somehow, it's getting closer. The first thing they told me was simple. Don't look too long at the water on Highway 37 at night. They said it like a joke, like something old crews say to scare new ones. But nobody laughed when I asked why. That should have been my warning. Instead, I signed the assignment sheet. Night ferry duty, rare route, low traffic, easy shift. That's what the report said. But the report didn't mention the silence. or the fog that doesn't move like fog should, or the way the radio sometimes answers before you speak. I found that out later, much later than I should have. The ferry dock looked normal at sunset. That's what made it feel wrong. Everything normal always feels wrong right before it breaks. Workers move like they were tired of the place. No eye contact, no small talk, just ropes, metal, engines. I stood there in my uniform, feeling like I didn't belong to the scene. An older officer handed me the logbook. Just routine crossings, he said. His voice was too quick, like he wanted to finish before I asked anything. I flipped the cover. The pages were clean. Too clean for something used on night routes. How many crossings per week? I asked. He paused a second too long. Depends on the fog. That wasn't an answer, but I still took it. The ferry left the dock just after dark. No ceremony, no announcement, just the slow pull of water against steel. Highway 37 wasn't a road. Not really. It was a narrow shipping corridor, cutting through open sea, a route marked on charts, but avoided whenever possible, except for us. Graveyard shift, that's what they called it, because nothing official ever happened here during the day. But at night, things were different. The first hour was normal. Engine hum, soft waves, wind tapping the railings like restless fingers. My partner on duty was a quiet man named Rafe. He didn't talk much, just checked instruments and smoked when he thought I wasn't looking. You ever run this route before? I asked him. He didn't look up. Not really, he said. That word, not really, sat heavy between us. I asked what he meant. He flicked ash into the wind. Means I've been here, but I don't remember all of it. I waited for him to laugh. All around us, not moving, just watching. Rafe stepped back from the railing. There shouldn't be this many ships here, he said quietly. I checked radar again. Nothing. Completely empty. But outside, we were surrounded. A soft metallic sound came from hull, like something tapping underneath. Slow, deliberate. I froze. Rafe heard it too. He looked down. What is that? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. The tapping stopped, then started again, closer to the front of the vessel, like whatever it was circling us. The radio came alive again, but this time, it wasn't a request. It was a count. Ferry 17. 1 vessel confirmed. Pause. 2 vessels confirmed. I felt my skin tighten. Rafe grabbed my arm. There's only us. The radio continued. 3 vessels confirmed. My breathing slowed, because I realized something. It wasn't counting ships. It was counting presence. Then the lights outside shifted. All at once, like they turned toward us. Every direction. Every angle. Rafe whispered, "We need to turn back." I checked the compass. It was spinning, not slightly, not glitching. Spinning like it had lost the idea of north. The engine's sound changed. Not louder. Different, like it was no longer pushing water. But something else. Something heavier. Something resisting us from beneath. Rafe ran toward the control panel. I'm taking manual control. But when he grabbed the wheel, it didn't respond. Not stuck. Not broken. Just ignored him. Like the ferry didn't recognize human input anymore. The radio crackled one final time. And this time, it said my name. Not my call sign. My actual name. I froze. Rafe did too. The voice repeated it again. Slow. Clear. Too clear. Do not leave. I looked at the fog. At the lights. At the water I couldn't see anymore. And I understood the first rule they gave me. Don't look too long at the water, because it might start looking back. The ferry tilted slightly. Not from waves. From something underneath shifting. Rafe stepped back. His face had gone pale. We never crossed this point before, he said. I checked the log. Every entry showed normal route progress. But the coordinates didn't match anything on the map anymore. We weren't on Highway 37. Not anymore. We were somewhere else pretending to be it. The radio whispered again. Closer this time. Maintain course. I realized something then. It wasn't guiding us. It was keeping us here. The ferry moved forward. Even when I tried to slow it. Even when I killed the throttle. We were still going. into fog that didn't end, into water that didn't feel like water anymore. And then I saw it. One of the lights drifted closer, close enough to make out shape behind it. Not a ship, not metal, something that only remembered being a ship. Rafe saw it too. He stepped back and said one sentence I'll never forget. That's not navigation anymore. And I knew he was right, because we weren't crossing Highway 37. We were becoming part of it. The last thing I remember from that shift was the radio counting again. But this time, it didn't stop at 3. It kept going, and one of the voices was answering back. The first thing I noticed was the faces, not the ferry, not the water, not even the schedule. The faces. They were supposed to be the same crew. That's what the log said. Same shift, same rotation, same names. But they weren't the same people. Not anymore. And the worst part? Nobody else seemed to notice. We docked at 2:14 a.m. Same pier, same silence, same fog, sitting over the water like it belonged there. But something was off before we even touched land. Rafe stood beside me at the rail. Or at least someone who looked like Rafe did. He was still wearing the same jacket, same posture, same cigarette between his fingers. But his eyes, they didn't settle on things the way they used to. They drifted, like he was looking at a memory instead of the present. You feel that? I asked him. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Feel what?" His voice was slightly different. Not by much. Just enough to make my stomach tighten. We unloaded passengers. Or tried to. The ferry lights flickered as people stepped off. Silhouettes moving in the fog. Slow. Quiet. Almost obedient. I checked the manifest. Names matched. But something didn't. Because I remembered faces from earlier crossings. And they weren't here anymore. New ones had taken their place. Same positions. Same seats. Different people. I flipped through the logbook again. Same entries. Same timestamps. Same crew listed. But the man standing at the helm wasn't the man from last shift. I knew that. But the paper didn't agree with me. Shift change complete. Someone said behind me. I turned. A deck officer I didn't recognize stood there. He smiled politely. Too politely. "You new on this route?" he asked. I frowned. "No, I've been here all night." He nodded like that made sense. Like I was just confused. Then he walked past me like I wasn't important enough to question. That's when I realized something worse. He was wearing my unit badge. I went to the crew quarters, looking for Rafe, or whoever he had become. The hallway smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar, like the ship had been cleaned by someone who didn't know what dirt was supposed to look like. I found him sitting at the table, or someone sitting there. Same uniform, same build, but his face, it had softened, less sharp around the eyes, less tired, like he had slept, which was impossible. We hadn't rested in hours. "You all right?" I asked. He looked up slowly. "Yeah," he said, then added, "Why wouldn't I be?" I stared at him, because I couldn't explain it, not without sounding insane. So I changed the question. "Do you remember the light we saw earlier?" He paused, then shook his head. "What light?" That was the first open loop that didn't close, because I remembered it. Clearly, the distant vessel, the radar anomalies, the fog swallowing navigation lines. But to him, it never happened. I checked the control log again, and saw something worse. The entry I made earlier was gone, replaced with a clean line. Routine crossing completed without incident. My handwriting, but not my memory. I went back to the deck. The ferry had already turned around. No announcement, no command, just movement, automatic, like it was following a script nobody had written out loud. The water looked darker now, thicker, almost like oil under the fog. A new crew member stood at the helm. I didn't recognize him at all. "Who are you?" I asked. He didn't look back. "Second watch," he said. That was it. No name, no badge history, nothing. But when I checked the roster, he was listed correctly, like he had always been there. That's when the radio crackled. Not static. A voice. Calm. Controlled. "Ferry 17, confirm crew status." I grabbed the mic. This is Ferry 17. Crew status unchanged. A pause. Then, incorrect. My grip tightened. Explain. Silence again. Then, crew continuity unstable. I looked around the deck. At people I knew and didn't know at the same time. At faces that were almost right. Almost familiar. But slipping further away the longer I looked. Rafe, if that was still him, walked up beside me. "You talking dispatch?" he asked. I nodded. He frowned. "Dispatch hasn't responded in hours." My blood ran cold. Someone just answered me. He looked at me like I was wrong, like I was the one confused. "You should rest," he said gently. That sentence. Gently. Rafe never spoke gently. Not like that. Not ever. I went below deck because I needed proof. Something physical. Something real. The engine room was louder than before. Too loud, like it was working harder than it should. A technician was there, wiping tools clean. I recognized him. At least I thought I did. "Hey," I said. He looked up, smiled. "Need something?" I hesitated. "What's your name?" He paused, looked down at his badge, then back at me. "Same as yesterday," he said. But he didn't say the name, because neither of us knew what it was anymore. That's when I saw the rotation board, the shift roster, pinned near the engine control panel. I checked it. My name was there, but also 3 variations of it, different spellings, different ranks, different positions, as if I existed multiple times on the same vessel. I stepped back. The technician watched me carefully. "Something wrong?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure anymore. The radio came alive again, but this time it wasn't dispatch. It was a ship, or something pretending to be it. Crew stabilization in progress. I froze. Rafe's voice came from behind me. "Did you hear that?" I turned. He was standing there. Same face. Almost. But now his expression was smoother. Calmer. Too calm. "What is happening to us?" I asked him. He tilted his head slightly. "We're just continuing the route," he said. Like that explained everything. That's when the lights outside shifted again. Through the porthole, I saw another ferry. Close. Too close. Same model. Same design. But when I looked at the deck, the crew on it was standing in identical positions to ours. Mirroring us. Exactly. I stepped back. "That ship shouldn't be here," I whispered. Rafe looked at it, then back at me. "It's always been here," he said. And that's when I understood the second open loop. The crew wasn't changing randomly. It was being replaced. Not physically, not visibly, but in recognition. The ferry wasn't swapping people. It was rewriting memory, rewriting identity, until nothing was inconsistent anymore. Except me. The radio spoke one last time before the shift ended. Crew alignment at 87%. A pause. Then, remaining original personnel, 1. I looked around the deck, at faces that almost matched, at people who smiled when I looked at them, at people who were slowly learning how to be someone else. And I realized they weren't becoming different. They were becoming consistent. Rafe stepped closer. "You're still thinking too hard," he said softly. I backed away, because now I saw it. The final truth forming beneath everything else. If everyone around me matched the system, and I didn't, then I was the error. Not them. Me. The ferry kept moving. Fog thicker than before. Water disappearing again. And somewhere inside the radio static, a familiar voice started repeating my name. Not calling. Not warning. Just confirming. Like I had already been processed. And accepted. And replaced. And as the deck lights flickered into perfect synchronization, I finally asked the question I didn't want answered. If everyone else is correct. I swallowed. What am I? The paper shook in my hand before I even understood why. My name was on the passenger list. That alone should not have been possible. I was standing in the control room, rain hitting the windows in slow, heavy bursts, the ferry engine humming like a tired animal below my feet. I had just taken over the night shift. No passengers were scheduled. No boarding call had been made. And yet there it was. My full name, written in ink that looked too fresh. Like it hadn't been dry for more than a minute. I stared at it. So long the letters started to feel wrong. Not misspelled, not faded, just slightly out of place. Like my name had been copied by someone who had never heard it spoken out loud. Behind me, the radio crackled. Control confirm head count. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I hadn't even started a head count yet. The ferry rolled slightly, cutting through black water. Outside, the sea looked too still for how much the boat moved, like the ocean was pretending to be normal. I looked back at the list. More names were there now. That was the first thing that broke my breathing. Not just mine. Others too. 10 passengers. Then 12. Then 9 again. The numbers were changing while I watched. My fingers tightened around the paper. I told myself it was a printing issue, a glitch, maybe humidity messing with ink. Maybe I was just tired. But then I heard footsteps outside the door. Slow, measured, coming closer. I turned off the radio without thinking. The footsteps stopped right outside the control room. A knock followed. 3 taps. Polite, controlled. Like whoever was out there already knew I would open the door. I didn't. Control. A voice said through the metal, "We are missing 1 passenger." The voice was calm. Too calm. I checked the list again. My name was still there, but now it was written twice. One line slightly darker than the other. My throat tightened. "Identify yourself," I said, forcing my voice steady. A pause. Then, "You already signed us in." My stomach dropped in a way I can't explain, because I hadn't signed anyone in. I hadn't even opened the passenger manifest before this moment. I looked at the clipboard again, and now there was a second page. I hadn't turned any page. My hand was still on the first one, but there it was. Page 2, filled with names, all of them familiar in a way that made my skin go cold. Crew names. My crew, except not exactly. Some letters were wrong. Some names slightly rearranged, like someone had copied them from memory instead of record. Another knock, closer this time. I stepped back without realizing it. The radio flickered on by itself. Head count complete. A voice said. It sounded like mine, but slower, heavier, as if it had been recorded underwater. "I repeat," the voice continued. "Head count complete. All passengers accounted for." My mouth went dry. I grabbed the radio. "No, that's incorrect. There are no passengers on board." Silence, then static, then laughter. Soft, short, familiar. My own laugh, coming through the channel. The kind I make when I'm nervous. That was the moment I stopped thinking this was a technical problem. Something was on this ferry that should not exist. I moved the window. The sea outside had changed. It wasn't just dark anymore. It looked layered, like there were shapes moving under the surface. But not swimming, not drifting. Waiting. The knock came again. This time, the door didn't just knock. It scratched. Slow, careful, like fingernails dragging across steel. I stepped toward the list again because I didn't know what else to do. My name was still there, but now there was something written next to it. A note, 1 sentence. "You are already on board." My vision blurred for a second, not from fear, from confusion, so deep it felt physical. I turned around fast, expecting someone behind me. Nothing, just the empty control room, except the chair. It was no longer empty. Someone had sat in it, not physically visible, but the seat was depressed, like weight had just left it. Warmth still lingered in the air above it. The radio clicked again. "Control," the voice said softly. "We can see you now." I backed away. "No," I whispered. "No, you can't." But my reflection in the control window disagreed, because it wasn't following my movement correctly. It was slightly delayed, half a second behind me. Then it smiled. Not me, the reflection. It smiled like it had been waiting a long time to do it. The ferry shifted harder this time, a sudden tilt, like something massive had brushed against the hull. I grabbed the table to steady myself. The lights flickered, once, twice, and in that second flicker, I saw them. Figures standing outside the control room window, not pressed against it, just there, on the outside walkway, wearing standard ferry passenger clothing. Wet, still, silent, all facing me. No movement, no blinking, just watching. I counted them without meaning to. 10, 12, 9. The number kept changing every time I looked away. One of them raised a hand, not waving, pointing, at me. I stepped back so fast I hit the console. The radio burst into sound again. Passenger discrepancy resolved. It said in my voice, "One remains unverified." My heart pounded. Unverified. I looked at the passenger list again. My name was still there. Twice. But now a third line appeared underneath it. Empty. Waiting. The knock on the door stopped. Total silence followed. That was worse. Silence meant attention. I moved slowly toward the door, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know what was on the other side. My hand reached the handle. Cold metal. Then something whispered through the door. Not a voice. A pressure, like sound trying to become shape. "You're late." I froze. That sentence didn't make sense. I hadn't been scheduled to be anywhere else. But the way it was said made me feel like I had failed something important. Something I couldn't remember signing up for. The door clicked, unlocked itself. I didn't open it. It opened anyway. The hallway outside was empty, but not normal empty. Too clean, too still, like someone had erased movement from it. And at the far end, near the stairwell leading to the lower deck, a single figure stood, facing away. Same uniform as mine, same posture, same stance. It looked like me, but older or finished. It turned its head slightly, not enough to show a face, just enough for me to know it was aware I was looking. Then it spoke without turning fully. "You already signed in," it said. My mouth went dry again. I whispered. A pause. Then it finally turned. And I wish it hadn't, because the face wasn't wrong. It was familiar, too familiar, like looking at myself after a long time at sea. But the eyes weren't mine. They were hollow in a way that felt practiced, like something had learned how to imitate sight. It stepped closer, slow, controlled. "You were assigned Highway 37, it said. My chest tightened at the name. Highway 37 wasn't a real route. It was an internal joke among older crews, a line that didn't exist on any official chart, a route people only mentioned when they wanted to scare new officers. I had heard about it once, never believed it. The figure stopped a few feet away, and then it said something that made my stomach turn cold. "You've been running it longer than you remember." The ferry groaned again, deeper this time, like something underneath it was answering. I looked back toward the control room window. The passengers were still there, but now they weren't outside. They were inside the reflection, standing behind me, watching me watch them. And slowly, one by one, they started taking their seats in the reflection of the control room, like the ship had already decided to count. And I was the only one left to match it. The radio whispered one last time. Final confirmation required. My name blinked on the passenger list, waiting for my answer, and somewhere below the deck, something heavy moved in the water, like it was waiting for me to accept I had already boarded. I shouldn't have played it. That was the first thought that hit me the moment the recording started. Not fear, not panic, just a quiet, sinking certainty that something in the room had changed before I even understood what I was hearing. The file was labeled in red. "Do not replay. Highway 37, unsanctioned distress feed." It was sitting in the restricted archive folder, buried under years of old Coast Guard logs, files nobody touched unless something went wrong at sea. I wasn't supposed to be in that system alone. I was just a trainee. But the night shift was empty. The supervisor had stepped out. And curiosity does something strange when you're alone with too many screens and too much silence. It convinces you that rules are optional. The recording was only 3 minutes long. That's what the label said. 3 minutes shouldn't have been enough to change anything. But the moment I clicked play, I felt the air in the room go thinner. A soft crackle filled my headset. Then water. Not rain. Not waves. Something deeper, like sound recorded inside a closed throat. A voice came through. "Calm. Too calm. Mayday. Mayday. This is Ferry Unit 37. I leaned closer, without meaning to. The voice didn't sound distressed. It sounded rehearsed, like someone reading a script they didn't understand. Then a pause, long enough that I thought the file had ended, but it hadn't, because after the pause, the same voice repeated. Mayday, Mayday. This is Ferry Unit 37. Exact same tone, exact same breath, no variation at all. I frowned. Audio loops happen. Corrupted files happen. But this wasn't a loop. It was identical timing, identical breathing, identical hesitation before each word, like it wasn't repeating, like it was happening again. I checked the metadata. The recording was marked as received from open sea coordinates near Highway 37. That name again. I had heard it before in training. Always spoken quietly. Always followed by a warning not to ask questions. Highway 37 wasn't on official maps. It wasn't a real shipping route. At least, that's what they told us. The voice came again. Collision, no visibility. Something hit us. Something is... Static cut it off. Then silence. My cursor hovered over the file. I should have closed it. Instead, I replayed it. Because something about that broken sentence didn't sit right. Something hit us. Not we hit something. That detail mattered more than it should have. The recording restarted. Same calm voice. Same unnatural rhythm. Mayday, Mayday. This is Ferry Unit 37. I leaned back in my chair, and that's when I noticed something strange. The waveform on the screen wasn't flat. It wasn't repeating. It was growing. Each replay added something new in the background. At first, I thought it was my eyes playing tricks. But then I saw it clearly. A second layer of audio was forming underneath the voice. A faint sound, like footsteps, metal footsteps, walking across something hollow. I froze. The ferry distress signal should not have contained movement. It should have been static transmission. Voice, noise, ocean. That's it. But now there was rhythm underneath it. Step, pause, step, pause. Like someone walking slowly across a long corridor. The voice returned again. Something hit us. Something is still. Cut. Static. Then the footsteps stopped too. For a moment, everything went silent. Too silent. Even the office hum felt distant. Then the recording did something it was not supposed to do. It continued after the timestamp ended. There was no audio left in the file, but sound still played. A different voice this time. Closer, not from the recording, from inside the recording space, from somewhere behind the original speaker. You shouldn't be listening to this. I jerked in my seat, my headset pressed tighter against my ears. I looked around the room. Empty desks, flashing monitors. No one there. The audio continued, not looping, not corrupted. Responding. I said you shouldn't be listening. My mouth went dry. I hit pause. The sound didn't stop. I closed the file. Still there. I yanked the headset off. Silence finally returned. But my ears were still ringing with that second voice. Not loud, not aggressive, just certain, like it already knew I had failed whatever rule I broke. I stared at the screen. The file was closed, but the folder was open again. And the recording had duplicated itself. Now there were two files, both labeled the same. Do not replay, Highway 37, unsanctioned distress feed. One of them had a new timestamp, updated, recent. I swallowed hard. That shouldn't be possible. Files in that archive were locked. Read only, air gap from live systems. Nothing updates them, but one of them had changed. I opened the newer one. Against every instinct I had, the audio started immediately. No delay this time. No crackle. Just silence. Then the voice. But it wasn't the ferry captain anymore. It was mine. My name is... I cut it off instantly. My hands were shaking now. I had never recorded anything in that file. Never spoken into that system. But the voice continued anyway. My name is Trainee Officer assigned to Night Shift Control. I am currently on board Ferry Unit 37. I stood up so fast my chair hit the wall. I wasn't on board anything. I was in a control room, on land. At least that's what I kept telling myself. But the voice kept going. I can see the water outside the window. It is not normal. I turned toward the office window. Without thinking, it showed the harbor. Dark. Still. Normal. But for half a second, I swear I saw something move in it. Something too large to be a wave. The voice in the recording lowered, almost whispering now. They told me not to open the file. My chest tightened. I opened it anyway. I stepped back from the screen. The monitors flickered in response, like they were reacting to me, not the system. Me, the voice continued. And now I understand why it keeps updating. A pause, long enough for my pulse to spike. Then, because you already listened. The room lights dimmed slightly, not enough to notice at first, but enough that I felt it, like the space around me had shifted its attention inward. My reflection in the dark monitor didn't match my movement. It was a fraction of a second behind, watching me instead of mirroring me. The recording spoke again. Calm, patient, close. You are part of the file now. I shut down the monitor. Hard reset. Emergency power cut. Everything went black for a second. Then backup systems kicked in, but the recording didn't stop. It had no power source anymore, and still it played. The voice changed one more time. This time it wasn't mine. It was the original ferry captain again, but weaker, fading. Mayday, we never left. Static rose underneath it, but inside that static, I heard something else. A second layer of voices. Dozens, all repeating different versions of the same sentence. We are still crossing. We never docked. The route does not end. I backed away from the desk slowly, because I realized something that made my stomach drop completely. The file wasn't a recording. It was a location. And by opening it, I had entered it. The screen flickered one last time before going dark. A final line appeared in white text across the black monitor. Recording status. Active. Then underneath it, trainee status. Confirmed. And finally, a third line that wasn't there before I started all this. Passenger count. 1. The room felt suddenly smaller, like the walls had moved closer when I wasn't looking. From somewhere deep in the system, the voice returned one last time, not through speakers, not through headphones, just everywhere. Welcome aboard Highway 37. I killed the system. That should have been the end of it. Main breaker. Emergency shutdown. Full power cut to the archive room. Every monitor went black. Every speaker went silent. Even the backup generator should have taken at least 10 seconds to kick in, but the voice didn't stop. It continued in the dark, soft, calm, patient, like it had never depended on electricity at all. You can't turn it off, it said. I froze where I stood. No screens, no light, just a faint emergency glow from the hallway spilling under the door. And still the voice was there, not louder, not weaker, just present, like it was sitting inside the room with me. I reached for my flashlight with shaking fingers and clicked it on. The beam cut across empty desks, empty monitors, empty walls. Nothing moved, but the sound didn't change. You already started playback. It continued. Shutdown does not apply after initiation. My throat went dry. I whispered without meaning to, "That's not possible." A pause. Then the voice answered immediately. "It is already happening." The way it said that made my skin tighten. Not threatening, not angry, certain, like it was explaining a rule I was too late to understand. I moved slowly toward the main control panel again, the one I had shut down myself. Every switch still in the down position, every indicator dead, except one, the audio input light. It was on, steady red. I hadn't turned it back on. I didn't even know it had power anymore. My hand hovered over the panel, and then the voice spoke again, closer than before. "You were checking the wrong side." I stopped breathing, because the sound didn't come from the speakers anymore. It came from behind me. I turned instantly, flashlight beams sweeping the room. Nothing, no one, just rows of empty chairs and dead equipment. But the air felt occupied, like the space itself had started paying attention. The voice continued, now softer. "You think this is playback." I swallowed hard. "It is not." My hand tightened around the flashlight. "Then what is it?" I asked, even though I didn't want to. A long pause followed. The kind that feels like something is deciding how much truth you're allowed to hear. Then, it is replaying you. My stomach dropped. I shook my head. No, that's not. I didn't record anything. The voice didn't respond immediately. Instead, the emergency hallway light flickered once. Just once. And in that flicker, I saw something impossible. A reflection in the glass panel of the control room door. Me, standing still. But in the reflection, I wasn't holding a flashlight. I was holding a microphone. I spun around fast. Empty room again. But my heartbeat was loud now. Too loud, like the building could hear it. The voice spoke again. You are still speaking into the system. I'm not, I whispered immediately. But even as I said it, I noticed something wrong. My breath was echoing, not in the room, inside the speakers. Like my words were being recorded even as I spoke them. I stepped back. No, I said louder. The system is off. The voice answered instantly. Then why are you still audible? Silence hit me after that. Heavy silence. Because I didn't have an answer. I tried to focus. Think logically. Hardware shutdown means no input, no output, no transmission path. But the room felt like it was ignoring logic entirely. The flashlight flickered. Once. Twice. And for a split second, I heard something else under the voice. My own voice. Delayed. Repeating what I had just said. But wrong. Slightly distorted. Like someone imitating me after hearing me once. My pulse spiked. I backed toward the door slowly. You're not real, I said out loud, more to myself than anything. The voice responded softly. That is not a requirement. I reached the door handle. Cold metal. I pulled. Locked. Of course it was locked. But I hadn't locked it. I tried again, harder. Still locked. Behind me. The voice changed tone for the first time. Not calm anymore. Not patient. Interested. You are trying to leave the recording. I stopped. A chill went through me. That sentence didn't make sense in a normal way, but it made sense in a worse way. Like I had misunderstood the nature of the room itself. I turned slowly back around. The control room looked the same, but the darkness in it felt denser now, like it had depth, like it wasn't just absence of light anymore. It was space that could hold things. The voice spoke again. You were never outside it. My flashlight beam shook slightly. I shut it down. I said again, weaker this time. A pause. Then the answer came. You interrupted playback. You did not end it. My mind raced. Interrupted. Not ended. Like stopping a tape mid-recording doesn't delete what's already been written. Just pauses it. I shook my head again. No, that's not how systems work. The voice responded immediately. This is not a system. Another flicker of emergency light, and this time I saw it clearly. The control room window reflection again. But now there were two versions of me. One holding a flashlight, one holding nothing. The second one was looking directly at me. Not mirrored, observed. My throat tightened. What do you want? I asked quietly. The voice softened again. Like it was satisfied I had finally asked the right question. To complete the entry. A pause. Then, you are an unfinished recording. My grip on the flashlight tightened so hard my hand hurt. I didn't agree to anything, I said. The voice replied calmly. You played the file. I felt my stomach twist. That's not consent. The voice didn't argue. It simply said, in Highway 37, playback is entry. The air in the room felt heavier after that sentence, like the space had shifted around me again. Not physically, structurally. I tried the door one more time. Still locked, but now I noticed something new. The door handle had changed slightly, not in shape, in detail. It looked older, corroded, like it had been exposed to salt water for years. My breathing quickened. The voice returned, quieter now. You are noticing it. Noticing what? I asked, though I already feared the answer. Synchronization. The flashlight flickered again, longer this time, and in that half second of darkness, I heard it. Waves. Not outside. Inside the room. Wet, slow, rhythmic waves. Like the ocean was just beyond the walls. I snapped the flashlight back on. Everything still looked normal, but the smell had changed. Salt. Strong salt water. The voice spoke one last time, closer than ever. You should stop resisting. I stepped back. What happens if I don't? I asked. A pause. Then the answer came. Gentle. Final. Then the recording will finish without you. The emergency light above me flickered again. And in that flicker, I saw something I didn't want to understand. The room was no longer control room. It was a ferry cabin, and I was still inside it.